NATO has warned that Vladimir Putin has deployed a submarine carrying the Poseidon tsunami bomb. Now, this is not to imply that they're planning on using it on Western nations or anything like that, but this is a bomb that can apparently create a radioactive tsunami. What are you doing here, Ian?
Prepping for the show.
Yeah, turn that volume
About 5
down.
minutes too late.
Too late.
Thanks, Tim.
So this is a tsunami bomb. It is being tested, and they don't believe the weapon can be deployed until 2027. But they apparently have it. They just need to try it. And the question is, if they need to test it, why not just test it now? The other bigger issue is that there's a train seen moving in satellite imagery, which carries the crew for nuclear rocketry and other things like that. So they do believe that Vladimir Putin is advancing the mobilization of nuclear weapons. And I just got to say, these people who think it can't happen, maybe it's optimism, maybe it's normalcy bias. But Vladimir Putin does not seem like the kind of guy who wants to lose or will let the West steamroll him. And now it looks like NATO is stepping ever closer to actively being... I mean, we know they're involved in the war. We know NATO, us, everybody. It's this, multi-front war. But they're getting close to actually just saying, okay, we're here. So Elon Musk goes on Twitter and says we need to negotiate peace. The Washington Post editorial board says we need to stop this. I mean, this is the Washington Post. And of course, Ukrainian officials, including Zelensky himself, basically rag on Elon Musk like, no. These people are dragging us into World War III. It's insane. So we'll talk about that. We got a couple other stories. We've got Kanye West and Candace Owens apparently wore White Lives Matter shirts. So, well, that's a thing. And then we have this cultural story. We have Billy Eichner's gay rom-com Bros bombed. And apparently it's because of homophobia or something. So sure. We'll talk about that stuff. Before we get started, my friends, head over to timcast.com and become a member to support our work. As a member, you'll get access to the uncensored members-only show Monday through Thursday at 11 p.m. We're going to have one of those coming up for you tonight. And all our other shows like the Cast Castle Vlog, Tales from the Inverted World. And you're supporting our journalists. We have a decent amount. We're hiring more. And we're only able to have them staffed because you guys are members. That's how we make the whole ship run. So smash that like button right now if you haven't already. Subscribe to this channel. Share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Benny Johnson.
What's up? Great to be here.
Who are you?
Huge fan for a long time.
Oh, appreciate it, man.
Host of The Benny Show podcast, host of The Benny Report on Newsmax, Turning Point USA contributor, Benny on the Block, Little Man on the Street show, and memer.
Right on. You got attacked recently, didn't you?
My memes.
Your memes got attacked.
Yeah, so not actually mine. So the memes of a great couple of memers, Not Proso and Dre Fenzor. It was a tasteful meme of Kamala Harris laughing to mariachi music as a bus full of criminal migrants pull into her lawn. And we played that at the University of Iowa, my alma mater. And a very sad person went and attacked the projector. I don't know if Panasonic hurt this man at one point or another. We don't know. We do know that the left can't meme, and now we have proven it physically. We say it a lot, that the left can't meme, but now we actually physically manifested that the left can't meme as his little bird bone, like hollow leg, kicked the projector, went about a foot, smashed it on the ground, and then he went running out, screaming that we were racist.
He got arrested, didn't he?
He did get arrested, 5th degree misdemeanor assault.
It was like nothing.
Spent the night in jail, but nothing can be more painful than waking up and finding that you yourself are the meme in the morning. And so the internet was just filled with glorious, glorious waterfall of memes of this guy kicking. The favorite one was definitely the replacement of the meme we were playing with very racist things that Joe Biden has said throughout his career.
Wow.
Like, if you don't vote for me, you're not black.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. Joe Biden saying that you're, that Mexicans are tacos, and so on.
Well, all right, man. Should be fun. We also have Mr. Luke Rutkowski himself.
Hey, guys. I'm not kicked out of the show yet.
Not yet.
Today, I'm also wearing a very prophetic shirt that was originally released in 2019 and became very true. It has the official Biden and Kamala logo with them saying, we're going to be arresting people for victimless crimes. That actually pretty much did happen, is happening to a lot of people. If you like the shirt, you can get it on thebestpoliticalshirts.com.
Oh, I'm still reeling from Friday, Luke. That was grotesque.
I got to think of a new show.
I got the camera shut down. Benny, it's great to see you, man.
What's up?
Tim got me a gift, but this weekend he went to Cooper's Rocks in West Virginia and got me some of these delicious, gorgeous jelly beans. They're actually just polished rocks.
Don't eat them.
Yeah.
I used to treat them like jelly beans when I was a kid and never really ate one or anything. You were saying the left can't meme. I think angry people can't meme.
Yes.
But they can be memed. which is what seems to keep happening. Is these people that are angry maybe go crazy and become revolutionary or disenfranchised and call them leftists or whatever you want to call them. But man, when you're in a state of anger, it's impossible to make light of something. That's my experience.
So Ian, I'm 36 years old. I was born in 1986, and you could go back in my childhood and turn on late night TV, and you could still find them making fun. You turn on.
Is that you again, Ian?
No.
Ian's making weird noises
that
over
time.
here.
Doorbell.
What the heck? Anyway.
Yeah, what was
I don't
that?
think
I
so.
don't know. That was weird.
But continue.
Continue.
Making fun of the left.
Yeah.
It used to be a thing that you could do on Saturday Night Live, right? They went really hard after Al Gore when he was running for president. You used to make fun of people on the left, and they haven't been made fun of in corporate media culture in a very, very long time. It's been years.
I'll let you know.
Ever since Trump, you're no longer allowed to make fun of these people in this movement, and I think it's very healthy, actually. So science proves that, like, when you're laughing together and with each other, then that actually creates bonds. And so you should want people to laugh at themselves, at their own political movement, at the stupidity of their own politicians. This is comedy gold, by the way, the Biden administration. This should be like the golden era of SNL and of late night comedy, the Biden administration. But you can't find me a single joke. Like, Jimmy Fallon told a joke about Biden and it went viral among the conservative media ecosystem because like a guy telling a joke about Biden, right? And so because they never get laughed at, they respond like this when I play a meme for them. They have never been made fun of, and so
It hurts. It physically hurts. They feel pain.
That's right. And so the soy the soy-filled bloodstream like goes, it becomes enraged, and then they just react violently because they don't know what else to do. Yeah,
a lot of people don't know this, but the Incredible Hulk originally it was soy.
He was a leftist.
That's right.
Well, I'm here so that you can make fun of someone on the left. I'll be your resident leftist, and if you agree with me, put a 1 in the chat.
There you go. I love it. I'm very excited.
Are you trying to trick people?
Tricking people.
It's all about the art of war, man. Feign weakness when you're strong.
That's right. I appreciate this practice of the art of war. Thank you very much, Ian. I'm very excited to have you, Benny. I'm stoked to see what memes we get into tonight. I am also here pushing buttons in the corner. Let's go.
All right, here's the story from Timcast.com. Russia deploys sub armed with weapon of the apocalypse. The Poseidon torpedo could destroy European cities by creating a tsunami wave the size of 4.5 football fields. Wow. The sub, named Belgorod, is that how you pronounce it, has disappeared from its harbor in the Arctic, promoting NATO to warn member countries that Russia may be planning to test its Poseidon torpedo, which is an intercontinental nuclear-armed, nuclear-powered autonomous weapon.
I think that should be prompting NATO to warn member countries. Yeah. Copy editor.
Oh, yeah, I see. There's a P. It's supposed to be prompting. So some people have said it's a 100 megaton torpedo. The more reasonable estimates is 2 megatons, which is still nightmarish. Apparently, this autonomous drone torpedo is nuclear powered. It's got its own small reactor, which means it has an infinite range. Not literally infinite, but that it could hit anything on the planet. It could go and just hit it. So he's deployed this sub. They're saying he's going to test it, and they're not convinced that the weapon is actually can be used just now.
That's not coming from me.
Not me either.
Sound. No, nothing's popping up.
Someone keeps making a
coming
noise.
from the mainframe.
No, it's coming from the main computer, not
main computer. We don't have speakers on the computer.
Well,
yeah, we don't.
Somewhere.
Maybe it's this Bluetooth
I've never
thing.
heard that noise before in my life.
It's coming from Luke's face. No, I'm just
coming from Luke's face.
Coming from
All right. So anyway, back to
Maybe it's the
nuclear
submarine.
annihilation.
Have you thought about that?
That's right. It could be here.
It could be the submarine.
Ian maybe brought it.
Ding.
So this theoretically could hit anywhere on the planet. Now I don't know if this is the big concern because it's not been tested, and I guess the estimate here is they say it's not going to be operational until 2027. I suppose if they have it and it's like partially functional, why not test it if they need to? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, now's not a good time to test a weapon because it'll look like they're preparing to launch. I think geopolitically, the mediocre intelligent people will be like, oh no, that means they're getting prepared to use it.
Well, this is why,
which I guess they technically are.
This is why the U.S. like canceled a few, what was it, like Titan missile tests? But what I mean is, if they haven't tested it yet, why does that matter? If they have it and it might or might not work, they will use it if they need to. And we can flip a coin and wonder which city is going to get wiped out in a radioactive tsunami, or we can just be like, hey, maybe we should stop the war.
Also, how many of these do they have? How many autonomous weapons are available? Like, this is the future of modern war, at least the present day modern war is autonomous nuclear weapons that can take out cities from a distance.
Well, we need to be, honest with ourselves. We don't know exactly what they have. A lot of the times, military technology is far behind what the general public believes is even out there. But for the record, Russia has 6,255 nuclear warheads. That's the recorded amount that, of course, everyone publicly talks about. But again, what we're talking about here is a new form of weaponry that is going to, of course, launch a nuclear weapon underwater and launch a tsunami with radioactive waste onto a shoreline. This is what they're talking about. I don't know how you test these certain types of weapons, but it's not just the submarine that we should be worrying about. Israeli intelligence is also documenting how Russian bombers capable of a nuclear attack were just found near Finland. There's, of course, the nuclear train that people are talking about. So it definitely does seem like Russia is allowing a lot of its nuclear assets to be deployed, whether tested or not. We don't know exactly what's going on here. But regardless, I think this is news that I think we should be paying more attention to.
Here's what people need to understand too. I'd be willing to bet the first target of any kind of nuclear strike, it's going to be tactical nukes. It's going to be nuclear artillery. So Russia will fire at a military target, probably a shot across the bow, meaning it'll hit nothing, and then it'll be devastating, and that's them being like, we're doing it. Then if the war continues, they'll use nuclear artillery against military targets. Then they'll probably use lower yield nuclear weapons against smaller cities. It'll draw up. But if it really gets to full scale nuclear war, then you don't need to worry about New York, DC, LA, or Chicago. You need to worry about small towns. They're not going. I would imagine Russia is not going to target, if they're going for a shock and awe kind of nuclear strike against a U.S. city, which I don't think is very likely at all. It's going to be a small city. What's a good example? Name a small city. Can you think of one? Dubuque.
Love you guys.
That's a good point. It's a good city, actually.
Dubuque, Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah. That actually, I don't know their population. It's probably a couple 100,000 maybe. But this is exactly what I mean. If the people who live in small towns think, it's New York, it's DC, I don't got anything to worry about. If they want to cause shock and awe damage and really paralyze the economy and the American people, going after a big city just confirms that they feel safe. We're not in the big city. We don't got anything to worry about. It would be bad. It would be scary, but we're in the middle of nowhere.
You know what?
They go after Dubuque. Everyone, everywhere in the country is going to be worried.
That's what freaks me out. Like, I don't know if 9/11, I don't know who did it. I still don't. But I am not putting it past the government to nuke one of its small towns or cities and blame it on the Russians. Like, that's been on my mind lately, is like a full scale 200,000 people are just evaporated or obliterated. And then everyone's in such pain and trauma that whoever they point you towards, you end up being like, I'm so angry. Okay, they're the enemy. Okay, I need an enemy right now.
Yep.
And that's just, be on guard for that kind of crap.
Right. So it's like Chernobyl melts down, and they're picking that radiation in Switzerland.
Yeah.
So that's 1,000 miles. And so if you nuked Dubuque, well, what's within 1,000 miles of Dubuque? And you have so many cities. Des Moines, Chicago, like you have so many cities that could also be affected by the Dubuque nuke, if that's what we're going to call it.
It's all going to blow east, I think.
Dubuque.
Dubuque. It's a very Russian way to say it.
The Dubuque nuke.
They like DB and all together,
Yeah, so we have this other story. Luke just mentioned it, that the Russian nuclear military train is seen on the move in possible warning to the West that Putin is prepared to escalate his Ukraine war. The military hardware belongs to the 12th Main Directorate of the Russian MOD. Specialist division is dedicated to storage, maintenance, and provision of nukes. I was saying this earlier. Everybody right now is talking about nuclear weapons, but these things are like, 80 years old? Not like every nuke is 80 years old, but the technology. You have to imagine they've developed different weapons by now, right? Yeah.
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean,
bioweapons?
80 years? 80 years, what we've seen in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And those attacked major cities that were key infrastructure for, of course, the Japanese military. They had a lot of factories there. They had a lot of production there. What's Russia going to do? Bomb China for producing all the infrastructure for the United States? It does. So there's a lot of complexities to our modern day. And there's also talk of low-yield nuclear weapons that don't have any radioactivity, that just provide kind of a big boom there. What we're talking about right now is just crazy stuff that is even preposterous that we're at this level where we are at right now. This is crazy.
I want to go back to World War II and just imagine what they were thinking before the deployment of nuclear bombs, right? They had V2 rockets. They had, they had Zeppelins dropping stuff or something like that.
Well, they were using B2 or B-52s to drop, I think a B-52, drop firebomb. They firebombed Dresden before the nukes went off.
So that right there was already kind of like a dramatic escalation. Imagine if they, in World War II, were concerned about the most powerful and devastating weapon of like 1860. Like we're talking about 80 years ago, we developed these fission bombs, these nuclear bombs. And then, of course, since then, we've dramatically increased their power by like 1,000-fold and put them on ICBMs. Now we have this torpedo. I'm willing to bet, I'm just going to say it, off the top of my head, antimatter weapons probably exist in great yield.
You don't know what's coming. This is the point of modern war is you don't know. A big point of it. You watch The Great War on YouTube. Fantastic channel. Documents World War I week by week. They didn't know what machine guns were. Not really. They didn't know that they were running into a machine gun for like weeks and weeks and even maybe months. They just got up and just kept running and just kept getting killed. Millions of people would just keep running into this new weapon that they didn't understand. And then in World War II, they didn't think a nuclear bomb was going to take out Hiroshima. They didn't know that existed, that potential was there. But lo and behold, in a split second, things can change.
So this is a story that broke last Friday. The first transgender officer in the U.S. Army, right, arrested being a Russian spy, traitor to our country. Now, this is what I found very, very interesting in the story. What were the Russians after? So what were presumably they wanting? What were they wanting? What information?
Medical data.
Health records.
Right, that's right. Well, they weren't going after Delta Force's like capacity of firepower or what special weapons they had or night vision goggles. They were going after the medical records. Now, what does this mean? Gordon Chang says that China is working on biomedical DNA attracted, devastate. I'm not sure how you would even call it. Like, what would you even call it? DNA markers that say like we're going to make a specific death for you based on your genetic code. And China's going full in on this technology to figure out how to kill whole groups of people.
Of course.
And this, of course, is the James Bond, last plot to the last James Bond movie.
You don't want them to know that you're attacking them. That's the point. They want to do it invisibly, quietly, subtly. You don't want to drop weapons that you see coming.
You guys know about Stuxnet? This was a cyber weapon developed by the U.S. and Israel to blow up Iranian nuclear centrifuges to stop them from, obviously, getting nuclear power or weapons or whatever you want to call it. So this was a cyber weapon that was basically just spattered across the planet. They infected everything and said sooner or later it will find its way onto their computers. And it did. It did nothing until it found the centrifuges. And then it caused them to spin until they exploded. But this virus was apparently on regular machines and industrial machines, but it wouldn't do anything. That's exactly it. I wonder if back then someone saw that and said, we can do that on a computer. Can we do that on a person? Yeah. You create a virus that will infect, a bioweapon that will infect every person on the planet, but only cause damage in certain DNA. Yeah. What movie was it? James Bond?
James Bond. This was the exact plot of the last James Bond film. And we know that the Central Intelligence Agency has a bureau in Hollywood that they openly push the new horrors to humanity through Hollywood cinema. And that they are probably concerned about this because this is what was happening. This exact thing was happening in James Bond film. There's a black character, female character, right? People thought she might have been the new James Bond, right? 007 takes time off and she becomes 007. Anyway, at the end of the film, the mad scientist is like, I could make a disease. They're in there, his lair, and he goes, I could wipe out your entire race, right? That was his threat to her, is that I could wipe out your entire people based on the genetic code.
But hold on.
Right?
Who would this most negatively impact? Not the United States.
China?
I don't know.
China is more ethnically homogenous.
Yeah, homogenous.
But it doesn't have to be about your ethnic genetics. It could be about a trigger. So like an external stimuli, a light or a sound could trigger your genetic to do the thing to activate it. It could be something you eat. It could be an emotion you have could trigger it.
That's
some kind of chemical release in your brain activates it or something like that.
Yeah. So they did a mass murder of a group at the beginning of the movie. And I mean, obviously, it's not a documentary, okay? Like, it's a James Bond film. But they killed a specific targeted group of people because they all took a tablet, right? They took a pill that you could give the military, let's say. Everyone in the military, they all take, like, very similar medicines, obviously vaccine mandates, so on and so forth. And so you could target them based on the medicine that they take.
There was some show that I was watching. What was it? Fringe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Fringe had an episode like
Great
this,
show.
right? Where this guy is developing this kind of smell that if you smell it, it kills you. Did you guys know this? He was trying to target a specific
Been a
person
long
through their
time.
genetics, something like that. Something like that. I don't know. It's been, I haven't seen it in a while. Yo, this is crazy because it feels like we all do these shows and we're like nuclear weapons, and then the TV's like nuclear weapons and Putin, and everyone's like, oh, and then meanwhile behind the scenes and all the top secret clearance stuff, they're like, if only you knew.
Dude,
Yes.
bioweapons are no joke.
Well, China was caught taking people's COVID tests and then genetically harvesting the DNA from it.
Yo.
U.S. intelligence agencies were specifically, I was talking about this, I think a year ago on this show. I was saying, hey, the Chinese government is stealing everyone's COVID tests. U.S. intelligence agencies are warning medical facilities not to get rid of their tests in a way where, of course, the Chinese government could get them. They have been getting them. They have been harvesting the data for multiple reasons. One is an economic reason. Another reason could be, of course, a new form of warfare, germ warfare, DNA-specific warfare that I think is also on the possibility. But the more likely possibility that, of course, people need to understand here is that China also wants to game the big pharma market. So if they have everyone's DNA, they know what people would be getting sick of. They could start producing and manufacturing medicine to beat out big pharma and become the next big overruling kind of power.
So for all of the people that may be listening and they're going, no, that's crazy. China's not taking your DNA. I give you NPR.
Dun, dun, dun.
China wants your data and may already have it. February 24th, 2021, from All Things Considered. They say,
Exciting.
as COVID cases began to rise a year ago, a Chinese company contacted several U.S. states and offered to set up testing labs. As a byproduct, the Chinese firm Beijing Genomics Institute would likely gain access to the DNA of those tested. The offer was tempting for states struggling to set their own testing facilities for a new virus on short notice, but U.S. national security officials urged the states to reject the offer, citing concerns about how China might use personal data collected on Americans. We certainly reached out to our partners in the community to make sure, blah, 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 blah. This is just one of the earlier stories.
Yeah, it definitely makes you wonder why the COVID tests were free, and given out to everyone.
No, hold on, though. Those you didn't return. Right? So what this is more about is facilities where you'd pull up and they'd test you and then we'll call you back later.
Exactly.
The COVID test you got at home, you like snorted into or whatever, and then you threw it in the trash.
You had to
and
buy
you're done.
those, right?
Right.
But the free
these-
ones, they had your DNA sample.
No. The ones they give you at your house, they were the same ones from the grocery store or whatever.
Yeah.
This is what they're talking about is there were places you could go to get tested where you'd drive up in your car, they'd stick you in the nose and say, we'll call you back on Wednesday and let you know. That's where the concern is on whether or not they were getting access to your DNA.
I mean, to Luke's point, how much of our pharmaceuticals is processed in China?
A
How
lot,
much-
majority.
I mean, the vast majority. I don't know the exact number. I'm sure it's easily you easily find it. I can Google it right now.
Yeah,
but
vitamin
I think
C, supplements, all of it, antibiotics.
Considerable
I just wanna make
majority
sure.
of American pharmaceuticals
They go on.
manufactured in China.
I just want to make sure I clarify too. As much as they go on to say that these states turned it down. This is funny. They were like, the national security said, don't do it because, China would get access to your data. We certainly reached out to our partners in the community to make sure, it sounds like it didn't happen. NPR goes on to say, Beijing Genomics Institute, a major global player in the world of genomics research, reported set up labs in at least 18 other countries and provided COVID testing kits to 180 nations, including the U.S.
Great.
U.S. officials stressed their main concern was preventing the establishment of full-service labs. The officials do not consider the testing kits to pose a serious risk. Biotech companies in China, the U.S., and elsewhere routinely collect DNA and use it, blah, blah, blah. You get it. So here's the other crazy thing, too, is like Ancestry and like, was it
23andMe? I'm just looking it up.
People are just like, I'm going to give my DNA.
And then a company buys 23andMe. Who owns it? I don't know. Do you know the guy that owns 23andMe personally?
And
I'm
I
asking you.
believe also the FDA made an announcement that they were taking some of the tests and running larger projects and scientific experiments with them based off human DNA.
Okay, now, I know it sounds freaky, right? But hear me out. What if the genomics lab that has everybody's DNA releases a virus and it turns people into crazy like animal hybrids like werewolves and lizard people? Wouldn't that be cool?
Reality is a lot scarier than your fiction here, Tim, especially when you look at individuals.
Animorphs.
Animorphs.
Yeah.
We were just talking about animals.
Right? And you're like,
Yeah.
what animal would animal would you become if you were an animorph?
Well, I'm not saying that people get the ability to choose a turn. I'm saying like they would be forcefully turned into a variety of different animals. Like Luke would be like a lemur guy and would be a horse dude or something.
Oh, all
like
right.
BoJack
Equine.
Horseman.
Can we stop talking about can we stop talking about
do it.
animorphs and can we start talking about the billionaires that are invested in a lot of these companies? Individuals like Bill Gates that are literally creating GMO genetically engineered mosquitoes that are meant to wipe out the populations of mosquitoes. And if he could do this to one group of animals, what makes you think he can't do it to another, another group of animals?
Can we talk about Bill Gates real quick? Because before the show,
Of course
we have
can.
we have this story from Slay News. Bill Gates warns civil war is coming. We'll bring it all to an end. But we've covered this before. We covered this story and actually got a ton of play. But Luke mentioned something else, that Bill Gates has a group of people tracking what people say about him on the internet. And I didn't believe it. And so Luke was like, pull it up. There's a quote from Bill Gates, quote, "I have a group that tracks what's on the web that's talking about things that connect to me," he said. Overwhelmingly during the pandemic, 95% was all the conspiracy theory stuff.
That were right. They were right.
Well, no, hold on. Not all of it.
Majority of it. I would say 95% of that stuff.
Not nothing, yeah.
No.
Majority of it.
A lot of it. Dude,
There were some crazy Looney Tunes that talked about aliens and all this other stuff to
let's
muddy the
clarify.
waters here. There was a lot of crazy people that made stuff up out of nowhere. But when it came to the scientists, the professionals, the researchers, the politicians who came forward that were censored, they were deemed conspiracy theories, and a lot of them were right.
But
And
they
of
weren't
course-
talking about Bill Gates. A lot of the stuff people talk about Bill Gates, they go over the top with. You need to talk about Bill Gates in the context.
No.
of the
He
thing-
says not about him. He says the pandemic. He says
said-
overwhelmingly during the pandemic, it was all conspiracy stuff.
Right. Talking about him. He says connect to me. He was saying that people were talking about him, and during the pandemic, it was all conspiracy theory stuff. I'm saying be careful about the weird lizard people attempts, because that's how they discredit you.
Absolutely.
Focus on Bill Gates' TED Talk where he says we need to reduce population growth.
Well-
and then they start doing these things claiming it's not about population growth, and I have to wonder what their priorities are.
Yeah, but not only that, if you look at the statement above what the quote that you just read there, it says specifically, Gates also revealed that he's been trying to come up with a solution for tackling misinformation and conspiracy theories. So he's going after the individuals who pretty much overall, a lot of them have been batting 100. He's the main guy funding NewsGuard. He's the one funding a lot of these fact checkers.
Well, real quick, we get a lot of flack for this. Microsoft has a contract with NewsGuard,
That's
not
right.
direct funding.
Of course, but he also came out, and it recently was revealed that he funded Dan Crenshaw, Mitt Romney, Marco Rubio. He's also, of course, behind the Inflation Reduction Act. He's bragging about how he made that bill, was a part of writing it. He's going to be enforcing it. This is the bill that, of course, provides 80,000 new IRS agents, is going to be centralizing a lot of control and regulations here. So, I mean, this man with 242,000 acres in 18 states, talking about keeping an eye on people who talk about him. I mean, that should raise some eyebrows.
We also have this story. Bill Gates admits that telling people not to eat meat won't solve climate change, despite previously saying U.S. should move to 100% synthetic beef and investing in plant-based firms. You know, look, they do all these things. They say climate change, but it kind of feels like what they're really saying is overpopulation.
Well, yeah. And also, this is self-interested. Bill Gates has a lot of patents, a lot of investments, and a lot of money into meatless diets that, of course, a lot of the science has been questioned. Some of the science has actually even been debunked, and purely does highlight something that a lot of people do see as something nefarious, since, of course, meat, especially organ meat, has a lot of important macronutrients, has a lot of important nutrition that a lot of people are being denied the access to. So a lot of people, of course, are coming up with theories, but obviously with this man having so much control, so much land, so much money, so much power, there should at least be some accountability, at least some criticism to him and his organization.
I think the factory farming industry is grotesque, and it's not something that gets enough attention in modern media. Like when you see the pools of large lakes of blood and feces, like brown, red feces mud they'll ban like drones above their factories so you can't see them. And then when you see like internal videos of like these, no offense to people that work in these jobs, because I don't know what the hell that must be like to kill animals all day, but like people that have gone so far, they see the pig and they just think it's a thing that I need to kill right now, and they'll take baby ones and smash them, pick them up by their leg and smash their heads on the concrete. You hear the baby pig squealing and dying, and then it's like, this is how we have been sourcing the meat for this amount of population. I get where Bill Gates is coming from, because this is grotesque.
That's not what he's talking about,
curbed.
though.
I think it's part of
What
why
about all
he's
the
on
animals
this
hurt?
crusade.
And that's not what he's saying. But what about all the other animals that are killed and hurt in the making of a lot of these, vegan?
Oh yeah,
products?
when you talk about when they harvest grain, for instance, they take these combines and they grind up huge amounts of wheat,
Yeah.
but all these deer are in there. They just hunker down and wait. Rabbits. I mean, it's not animal friendly the way that they harvest
Absolutely
mass
not.
amounts of grain.
Absolutely not. But again, this is not kind of what Bill Gates is saying.
Yeah, he's not
here.
talking about that. He's talking about it takes too much carbon to make a cow.
And factory farming is intensely
crazy-
It's carbon intensive.
The crazy
for sure.
thing I learned
they release
is
a
that
lot of burps.
The crazy thing I learned is that broiler chickens, factory rate, like, people say like there's such thing as a factory farm. Look at these pictures of like this building full of just chickens. 6 weeks until they harvest the chicken. Yeah. That's crazy to me, because we have, backyard chickens. 6 weeks is tiny.
They just got them on steroids.
I guess they're hopped up on goofballs to make them grow real quick and nasty like.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Look, just because we have problems in that capacity, I'll admit, Bill Gates telling people not to eat meat is nuts. My point here is they keep saying climate change, but look at the actions that they're engaged in. When they're saying, hey, we want to get rid of fossil fuels, it's like, okay, well, people will die if you do that. It's like, yeah, well, climate change. It's like, okay. Well, we don't want people farming in the Netherlands right now during a food shortage, during a war. It's like, okay, well, that's not climate change. They're like, we're concerned about nitrogen levels in the Netherlands. It's like, yeah, but there's a food shortage coming because of the war in Ukraine, right? And they're like, oh, yeah, well, whatever. They should stop making food. So you want the food to be worse? There was a great point that was brought up by Jeremy Boring when he was on the show. And he said, nothing matters without humans. We are humans. Our experience is human. We care about the human experience. So this idea that we would sacrifice humanity for something else makes no sense. Or he said something to that effect. I don't want to misquote him, but he made a really good point. Humans exist for humans.
Right.
Like we have to be good stewards of the earth. That's what he said. But also like our drives, our passions, our desires, our experience is relative to humans. So if we were thinking of sacrificing all of humanity for the sake of, climate change, well, what's the point? Stopping climate change to save humans when humans are going to die if you don't have food, something doesn't add up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that there's
the person saying there's too many people in this world, so you got to give us all the power and all the money because we are going to help everyone. Should really have someone looking side-eyed at them. And again, you have to look at Bill Gates and the work that he's produced. The products that he produced. Vandana Shiva actually came out and did a very excellent kind of speech about what Bill Gates has done to India with his centralization of farmers. You see what he has called for. You see the work that he has done with China, advising them, working with them on many projects, calling for many of the most restrictive COVID policies, celebrating their lockdowns. I mean, this is a man who has a vision for humanity that I think should be critiqued a little bit and not promoted because the corporate media regurgitates a lot of what he has to say uncritically, as of course he also gives hundreds of millions of dollars to the corporate media. He's invested in The Guardian, the BBC, MSNBC, and his money has been spread around everywhere, especially in the scientific community where it has created the Bill chill, where many scientists are even too afraid to criticize him or his products because they know some kind of funding is going to be taken away if they criticize him. And this is why, in my opinion, Bill Gates is bragging about how he has people that track people online that talk about him as he's now trying to delve into dealing with misinformation and conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
it's not a coincidence.
Why can't these super rich ass people just be super rich and be happy? What is the emptiness in their soul? What is driving this? Now, as a Christian, I can I have my own thoughts on this. However, why? Why make the world a worse place? Why take away meat for the rest of us? What a miserable existence. I want to take away your ability.
You have to eat the soy.
Guy works a 9 to 5 in the coal pits, and all he wants is to put a hamburger on the grill.
You got it backwards.
When he goes home.
Where is the opposition? Why is it that Bill Gates and all of these other billionaires are dumping money into wokeness, CRT, climate change stuff, and then on the inverse, nothing? I mean, not literally nothing, but dramatically less.
Yeah.
I talk about this quite a bit, and I was saying once, I wish people who had money would do things with it, and they don't. And some people point out, yeah, but the woke people do. And then I was like, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe people shouldn't. And then I thought about, Mackenzie Bezos got, $28 billion for divorcing Jeff. And then she puts $2 billion into woke stuff. At least it was reported from some outlets. She's dumping all this money into all these woke causes. And then I'm just like, okay, where's the story about a major libertarian, conservative, anti-woke person doing something similar? I went to Morgantown, West Virginia. It's like a college town and it's run down. And there's a lot of reasons why it is. And it seems like it's orchestrated. Big investment firms drive up the price of buildings so that no one in the community can buy them, so that businesses can't be open, nobody can afford rent. And then it becomes this just slum. Then they start giving out free needles to everybody. And now everything's just crime, poverty, drugs. And then I'm like, one billionaire, a billionaire could go in there and buy 7 buildings and then just be make stuff to the community to revitalize everything. They can counter it. Why don't they do stuff like that? Why is it that it's always people like Bill Gates and George Soros? Now, I know long ago there were stories of the Koch brothers or whatever. I don't know what they were doing or they are doing. I just know that as much as there is some stuff that Peter Thiel does, for the most part, we only ever hear about these big, woke, leftist billionaires who think there's too many people. When we get close, Elon Musk gets close to buying Twitter and doing something, he then says, I'm going to back out. It's a bad idea. I don't want to do it.
Yeah, this is why we can't have nice things. To your point about this, and I'm not sure this is germane to the conversation, but Dave Chappelle, to his great credit, deserves, I think, a lot of aplomb for just going to some middle of nowhere town in Ohio and then going to the town council meetings to keep corporations from moving in and like arguing on behalf of little pubs and little breweries and like little restaurants that are there. Dave Chappelle, if you haven't looked into this, like has a little, to your point, like he's a, I don't know how much money he has, definitely a multi-millionaire. Dave Chappelle goes into this little town in the middle of truly nowhere in Ohio, and he just like saves the city, like saves the like nice, genteel like nature of the city, and he actually went and argued against a huge development that was going to come into the town because it's been popularized probably because of Dave Chappelle. And he killed it. He killed it, and then he bought the land so that no one could develop it.
Yep.
Which is very neat. Which is actually similar to what you just described.
But it's good. We're doing a big play with Times Square on New Year's. We're getting the whole North Tower. We're getting a percentage of it. So every 90 seconds, we're going to have 10 to 15 seconds of the whole North Tower, except for there's 2 ads owned by like Coke and M&M or something. But I was like, we should do things that assert ourselves in these cultural spaces and make people aware that like, we're winning, we're growing, we're taking over. So that was like something big we did this year. We're planning, we're trying to come up with an idea for a bunch of culture jamming marketing stuff next year. And I think about that and I'm just like, when I go to these small towns and I met this local guy and he was like, you should consider buying here to help bring things back and kind of kick things up a notch. There are a bunch of buildings with the pride flags all over the place. And we both agreed when we were talking about it that people are just doing that because they're scared. They're scared of the violent terrorists. Yeah. And so long as there is no counter, it's just going to keep spreading. People are going to put up flags, not because they believe in it, but because they're like, this stops people from attacking my business. If I had $1 billion, I'd go in there and be like, okay, I'll buy these 3, that building, and that building. And then we'll get some locals in the community who oppose this stuff to create the space they want to create, invest in that, invest in the future of this country. Yeah. I think the problem is, and it was this guy, Nate, shout out Nate, it's nice meeting you. He said, we had a protest out here and BLM and these other groups are showing up and he said, most of the town, it's West Virginia, they oppose this stuff and none of them could take any time out of their day to come out and say no to these people. And then I was like, that's it right there, isn't it? They won't even show up to say no. That's a bummer.
So the Passover is when the spirit of death, right, passes over the households of Egypt, and it doesn't kill the firstborn son as long as you put lamb's blood right on your door. This is what Passover is, a high holiday, high Jewish holiday, still celebrated Christian or Jewish traditions. And so in Washington, D.C., I literally watched people do a metaphorical, like hedonistic Passover on their homes. So I lived on Capitol Hill in a very bad neighborhood where like a couple blocks from where Jack Posobiec had Antifa come after Jack. That famous photo of Jack like staring down Antifa, where they were looking to tear down our Lincoln statue. There's a statue of Abraham Lincoln. They wanted to tear it down. There were mobs putting nooses around it to rip it down. People put up gay rights flags and BLM flags in their yards, literally as like a please don't come here thing. I know these people were not, some of them were Republicans, and they were not on board with this. They needed to wave these flags and put this stuff up in order to like stop the mobs from coming to their street. You remember Rand Paul almost got beat like to death with his wife Kelly Paul outside of the White House after Donald Trump's speech at the 2020 RNC convention. I was like 7 feet from that watching that happen. I mean, it's like, it really is terroristic, almost. It's domestic terrorism. And then you go back to D.C. This is my first time back in a year because I moved away a year ago. I followed this great podcaster I listen to every single day. His advice is he goes, get out of the cities. Get out of the cities.
Oh,
Jack Posobiec?
Yeah.
He's great.
Must have been Jack Posobiec.
Great beard. Fantastic hat. And I followed that advice. We went, sort of down to, I guess Tampa is a larger city, but it's not like D.C. It's very, very different from D.C. in so many ways. I was just back in D.C. for the first time in a year. Man, the decay. There's no better word for it. There's entropy that is happening to that city. I lived there for 15 years. I worked on Capitol Hill. I've asked questions in White House briefings. I've been all over that city, and I've never seen anything like it. First off, there's tent cities. As soon as you get into the nation's capital, which you shouldn't have in a nation's capital, right? So if you're visiting from another country, you shouldn't see like squalor in tent cities. And then there's no one there. And the people who are there, it's like a zombie town. The people who are there are masked, like triple masked, like walking around. Here's a photo from a store. I had to run into a store and grab an item. Here's a photo that says at a Nordstrom. This is at a Nordstrom rack. This said
the gas pipeline, right?
Nordstrom too.
Hispanic and Latinx welcome here. For your heritage,
were they normally
along with everyone else?
Latinx, right? That's exactly.
Were they banned before? Wait, what are you doing? No, what is that? Nordstrom?
This is Nordstrom Rack.
Nordstrom, why'd you ban the Latino people from your store?
What's the next?
That's not
I had to take
okay.
a photo. It's like these people don't understand like
They
how
had to issue a notice to let people know they weren't doing it anymore.
Yeah, like that's what I got from that. You know?
the decay and the entropy is really happening in real time. It was shocking for me to go back.
Oh yeah. So, we're looking at setting up a brick and mortar location. Probably going to be. We've been talking about doing like a community center kind of thing, and I've got these people. For one, the real estate markets, the whole market itself, everything's just insane, and they're trying to get insane.
Good way or bad way?
It just insane. Like they're trying to sell property for substantially more than you could even make money off of. It's just that they want to sell a building and it's $500,000, and you're in an area with no foot traffic, no customers. How is this money worth anywhere near that? Even if you opened a chicken restaurant, you would be able to sell enough to cover the cost of the mortgage in this area. Is insane, and they're like, it's worth it. And I think a lot of it has to do with these big investment firms. They keep buying up property, which keeps the prices artificially high. Yeah. Nobody wants to sell because they're convinced it'll be worth it. Then the cities start decaying. So I go to these places. We had one story where I'm trying to buy this building, and they're telling me how great the city is, how good it's going to be. And I'm like, the local diner is closed on a Saturday at noon because nobody wants to have it. Nobody's working. So if I can't even go to a store and every business is closed, no one is here. What makes you think there's value in this location? They're like, it's worth it. And to me, it's that kind of mentality that's stopping people from investing in their towns, from actually building community. And then everyone just sits at home on the internet and does nothing. Or they were raptured. I don't know. That's the other joke. Where is everybody? Like you mentioned, like in DC, like where is everybody?
In Florida, in DC,
Maybe, yeah.
in DC, it's estimated that 70,000 people moved out of DC in 2021,
really?
and it's estimated in 2021 that 220,000 people moved to Florida. So these are just like rough estimates, but again, a lot of people are moving where the freedom usually is more available, where there's less taxes, less government, less regulations, and a lot of times that's Florida.
Did you guys see that video of those two dudes with the gas tanker comes in? And the guy's like, you can talk all that ish about DeSantis, but he brought the gas to Arcadia. I know who I'm voting for.
I'm a Democrat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ron DeSantis for handling the potential looting in Florida after the hurricane, because he came out immediately and was like, don't even think about it.
Yeah.
You go to a house, you don't know what they got behind that door. Good luck trying to take someone's stuff.
Well, there was
insinuating you're going to get shot. They're armed. Don't mess with people's property.
There was a lot of signs from the citizens there, just themselves saying, "You loot, we shoot."
Right. Good.
So that's the culture that comes from Florida of individuals saying, "Hey, this is my property. Hey, a lot of us get to have the right to defend ourselves, and you should think twice before trying to hurt or steal from another innocent human being."
This breakdown of law and order is completely insane. It's antithetical to the culture of the United States, that we would let rioters and looters destroy the country, and then the flames grow greater in 21. And you're like, dude, I don't want Chinese authoritarian communism. I don't want that. But I want to see the National Guard on the street when people are trying to firebomb a building. I want them stopped.
This is wild. All right, wild. And I have this out because it's the first thing I got when I got to Florida. Concealed carry permit.
Ooh.
Right. This is
nice.
the first thing.
You don't need that in West Virginia.
You can never get.
You don't need that in New Hampshire. but I got one too.
Blown out.
Can I see it?
This. Yes, of course. This is insane. Okay, so Ian, to your point. So I made my Uber stop short of my hotel, and I got out to look at the burned down edifice of the White House. Now you would say, Benny, nobody burned down the White House. Well, the White House is a giant ground, right? And there's groundskeepers facilities on the White House grounds that are considered part of the White House. And those groundkeepers facilities were torched down. This was the burning building when the Antifa mobs attacked. It was in July, attacked the White House, right? And they injured some 90 Secret Service agents and so on and so forth.
Firebombed the guard post, tore the barricades down, set fire to the church.
Set them up.
529 insurrection.
That's right.
May 29th.
520.
Yeah, we talk about this.
So sorry, have you guys seen what it looks like?
No.
It's still burnt. They haven't fixed it at all.
Whoa.
It's still burned. It's melted to. It's on my other camera because I actually filmed it to put up on our channel. Shout out to Benny Johnson channel. It's linked in the YouTube. Please go follow us. This is insanity. They haven't touched it. It's like a memorial to the leftist insurrection. It's still there. I encourage everybody, if you're in Washington, D.C., to go to the White House grounds and to just look at the still burned down, the flame. You can still see the blackened flames of the building. They haven't touched it. It's been 2 years. They haven't improved it. They haven't tried to fix it. Wow. It's just sitting there, burned down right by Andrew Jackson. They're right by the famous shot of the White House, right? You see it on the State of the Union and everything. And it's this burned down edifice, like a memorial to what the left did. It's almost like they're proud of what they were able to do when Donald Trump was in office, when they were able to stage their own insurrection.
I don't know if it's like one of two paths. Either we bring in the military to stop the rioters. This Philadelphia, I keep seeing all this street violence in Philly, shops getting destroyed. If we bring in the military and then we become some authoritarian regime, or if we just let the mobs take over and then we have a new mafia running the country, and it's basically young disaffected men that are gangbanging or whatever, dudes that are packed.
We already have a mafia. It's called government.
Well, I'm talking about local, like 17-year-olds that have illegal, like handguns that are like
illegal handguns.
Yeah, illegal concealed pistols that they don't have licenses for or whatever. And I don't want the mafia running the show, but that's what it feels like when I look at videos. And I'm being manipulated by social media, but that's what it feels like.
But this is why I say get out of cities. It was the reason I said Jack Posobiec is because he was saying that before I was saying it. You know, he was warning people for a while to get out of cities, but I was like, yeah, you know.
Sorry, Jack.
Well, no. I mean, we say it a lot on the
Tim.
show too because we did leave. We were on the other side of the river from Philadelphia in Jersey, and then I left New York. I went there, and I said, this isn't fixing anything. So we came out to the middle of nowhere. We're still close enough to DC, but that's the idea. If these 17-year-old kids with their constitutionally protected firearms end up acting a fool and taking over cities, you ain't gonna be there. And I'll tell you this, if you were out in MAGA country in West Virginia and something bad happened, it is going to be substantially better because you're not going to have roving bands of teenagers like you are in a city. You're going to have like farmers and their families and their neighbors coming together, and it's going to be not perfect, probably pretty bad in certain ways, but way more organized.
Like, I think that as the liberal economic order crumbles and like the US dollar is no longer the world reserve, people are falling into poverty, living on the street, that is it inevitable that these cities just turn into battlegrounds? That it's either going to be the military mowing people down that are trying to destroy property, or it's going to be gangs mowing people down because they want the property? Like, is it one or the other? Can we find a peaceful solution in the cities? What do you think?
So there was looting in Tampa. There was one incident during the hurricane of looters going through Tampa, my neighborhood, and they were caught immediately. They were arrested immediately by the police, and then you could go every single house, every other house, and find a homie on his doorstep with a firearm. Like dads just got their guns and just sat outside. And there was not a single looting incident for the entire 3 extra days of the hurricane. Because it was rainy and windy.
Wait, you mean the police didn't come and save everybody and protect the neighborhoods? It was the locals who were just
It was the locals who sat there on their porches. Including but not limited to yours truly, who's very happy to have a gun safe now finally, and I can build up my little arsenal here. But my neighbor, I come up the street. I was at Home Depot, got some potting soil, right? So this is better than a sandbag. So don't take hurricane advice from a guy who's just been in Florida for 1 year, but you can put bags of potting soil up and they act as a sandbag. And they're more available, and then you can use them afterwards. Because I don't know if you're going to make like a sandbox or something. You can actually pot your plants, right? It's going to be really pretty weather, beautiful weather after the hurricane. So I'm driving back from Home Depot, and I look over, and here's Johnny. Johnny's my neighbor. Johnny's 50 years old. Johnny rides a Harley. And here's Johnny sitting there. He's an engineer, and he's sitting there with his double barrel on his lap. You know, I was like, Johnny, did somebody send your daughter a naughty DM or what happened, right? What's the double barrel about? He's like, yo, there's looters in the neighborhood.
No.
We're just making sure they know. Not in my neighborhood. And then up and down the street, you see people sitting there with their firearms, and no more looting.
That's the third choice then. You don't want to rely on the government because they're just going to become autocrats. You don't want to let the gangs destroy. You got to have the civilians armed and protecting their individual properties. So maybe it's time in these cities to lighten up on gun restrictions and encourage people to start training. You
allow law-abiding, innocent human beings to be able to defend themselves, just like the criminals who have all the firearms. And I think I know what video you're talking about. It was from Chicago, allegedly of children from junior high school, and they all had Glocks with switches on it that made them automatic pistols.
Constitutionally protected, but not legal in Chicago.
Yes. Chicago, of course, being a place where they, of course, have the strictest gun control laws, but, teenagers, 14-year-olds, were running around with automatic Glocks, and of course the average citizen can't even have a pocket knife to defend themselves because they'll go to jail if the cops find it on them.
Yeah, I wonder
that's crazy.
what
That's an
big city's
absolutely
gonna
insane
open up.
dichotomy that, of course, is not fair for the average human being. That it's not fair for someone that is not trying to hurt anyone, or an individual who just wants to defend themselves that can't, and allows criminals to run free with
Yeah, because they'll take the guns anyway, the criminals. They don't care about the law. I think what's
The
going to
criminals
happen
will
is
have the guns.
it's going to build up, and violence, we're going to see this street violence. We'll probably see more of it as people become more poor, more people in the street. And then a city's going to be like, guns are legal now. Yes. Constitutional carry. Yeah. Everyone can carry. And that city's, the crime is going to plummet in that city.
That's right.
You know how hard it would be to get one of these in D.C.? I tried for years in Washington, D.C. to get one of these. There's one licensed firearm dealer. There's one licensed instructor. They can train one person at a time. So DC versus Heller happens, right, in 2009. 2008. DC versus Heller. DC used to be, for like 30 years, you couldn't own any firearms at all. DC versus Heller overturns this. And so what they did is the bureaucracy comes in and just makes firearms. Even though the Supreme Court said, no, you will allow the sale of firearms, the bureaucracy comes in and says, okay, we'll limit it to a store and a guy. And that person, and then multiple police officers that you need to speak with, right? So I tried the process. I was drowned in paperwork. I was just choked out by the bureaucracy. I could not get my concealed carry in D.C. I tried for years. It was too difficult. Meanwhile, on my block, on 19th Street, Capitol Hill, you could call it like a gentrifying block. I lived right next to a drug dealer, right next to a crack dealer. That guy had so many guns. They were doing open air gun sales on my street. The week that I left, the week I decided to move, there was an open air gun sale going on the street. The guy opened up his trunk and he had, I don't know what he had, like a ton of firearms sitting there. And it, if you made him the right price, you just pick it up out of his trunk, right? There was a deadly shooting on my street that the police had to come get my footage from. This was 2 weeks before we left, right? Guy gets shot in my yard, jumps into the rose bush. We played it on the show a couple times.
But what do you need a concealed permit for when you can just hire an armed security guard who does all the work for you, and you could have armed security guards all around you as you walk around?
You mean like AOC?
Like all of the politicians.
All of them.
Yeah, that's
who
right.
can and the wealthy individuals who eat at these steakhouses and the lobbyists who don't need to apply for a permit because they just pay for several men who get the permits and then surround them.
They also got walls.
This is what they do. The reason why these elites are okay with banning guns is because guns are only banned for poor people. Now, it would be hard for them to get a firearm as well, even though they are wealthy, but you pay someone a couple $100,000 per year. They take the time and energy to go get the permit and get the guns, and they surround you, and you don't have to think twice about it. Don't worry your pretty little wealthy head off. That's why they vote for this stuff, so that poor people can't have weapons, but they can.
Yeah, and they call for machine gun turrets at the Capitol, as of course they tell you that you can't have a firearm. It's absolutely
That's
crazy.
Nancy. Did you see the video of her saying they're shipping the migrants north, but the farmers say we need them to pick our crops?
Yeah.
The Florida farmers.
Wow.
Yeah, the Florida farmers are very upset.
She talks like this. They're saying to me, why are you sending the migrants up north? We need them to pick our crops.
And it's just like, they're here illegally. They're not legally allowed to work. And you're telling me that farmers are advocating for the commission of a crime to you, and you agree with them.
Yes.
You do know that Martha, that Nancy Pelosi owns a vineyard, right?
Where?
Yeah.
Nancy's vineyard.
She has a vineyard.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
where Paul Pelosi was driving to, drunk off his ass, like
2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning.
He was going back to their vineyard. So of course, this hits home for Nancy. Okay,
Sure
where's the
does.
labor
Oh,
going to
yeah.
come from?
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Who's
right.
going to pick the grapes? And you wouldn't want the Chardonnay grapes that are getting picked raw. They're not getting picked with the beautiful hands, okay, that handle the grapes correctly. They're getting picked like a week too late. That makes bad Chardonnay. And ain't nobody dislike her bad Chardonnay.
I didn't know that. Does that make bad Chardonnay?
I have no idea.
Oh, because you had me worried. I was actually sympathetic to Nancy. I was like, oh, we don't want a Chardonnay.
Bad
No,
Chardonnay.
Nancy Pelosi's vineyard in
The-
St. Helena, California
the
makes her the fourth richest Californian in Congress as of 2015. I'd like to see how that's evolved.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Soft hands picking the Chardonnay grapes.
I think she's very detached from Law and Order. If she thinks that we should just deal with it, I don't understand this. Why they're trying to stop people from governing themselves? That really bothers me.
I'm gonna. Can we play the? I had to pull up the video. We have to.
Oh
play
yeah,
it.
we gotta watch this.
We just gotta play it.
We have a shortage of workers in our country, and you see even in Florida, some of the farmers and the growers saying, why are you shipping these immigrants up north? We need them to pick the crops down here.
I just love that she's like,
Wait a second. We need them to pick the crops is like the permanent perennial Democrat talking point. It goes all the way back to the founding of the Democrat Party. We need them to pick the crops. It's always been the issue for Democrats.
It's true.
It never
it's just
changed.
It's just remarkable to me that she's basically saying right now to the press and everyone else, a group of farmers said, we are employing people illegally who entered the country illegally. Please don't take these people away from us. And there's just so much here where it's like, well, Nancy, as an officer of the government, maybe you could inform law enforcement that crimes are being committed, and they're requesting of you to assist them in the crimes being committed. And your only response is to be like, they like it. That's just the people who are coming in. You earlier in the show you said criminal migrant.
Criminal migrant. Because they broke our laws.
Right, and that's like, you know, I hear a lot from the left. They're like, no one's illegal, and I'm like, that's a good point. A person isn't illegal, but they can be criminals, and if you break the law and you're here, you're a criminal migrant. That
Correct.
makes sense.
Yes.
So she's actually here arguing for the law to be broken. It's I don't know, chaos. What was the word we were talking about when the cities are decay?
Decay.
Degradation.
It doesn't mean you're a bad person. I live in a completely Cuban it's a Cuban neighborhood, right? Tampa's the number one by city population, the number one landing place for Cuban migrants. And I assume most of them were not here legally, right? They came from Cuba. There was a lot of them, and they came illegally. Those people are the best patriots, man. Those people are awesome.
Well,
I live in Tampa's an amazing community. If you ever go to Ybor City in Tampa, get a hand-rolled cigar, get a proper Cuban coffee. It looks like Havana should look without the communism.
I don't think people should be illegally entering the country.
Right.
But I will say I have infinitely more respect for illegal immigrants fleeing communism, and even the migrant from Honduras who's like, I want Buffalo Wild Wings, coming to America. I have more respect for them than the leftists who are like, America is evil and racist.
Yes.
Now, I'm not happy that they break the law to come here because they want Buffalo Wild Wings. As for the people fleeing communism, fleeing here and then applying for asylum, I get. And hopefully they get it because communism sucks. But you have too many people in this country who just outright hate it despite the fact that everyone's fleeing to get here.
I mean, I call them criminal migrants for that exact reason. I'm not trying to say that anyone should break our laws to come here. You weren't invited. And by the way, this is Democrat law. This was passed and ratified by Joe Biden, of all people, in the Senate. Where if you cross our border illegally, it is your duty to turn yourself in immediately to Border Patrol and then to essentially like surrender yourself, right, to authorities. That is the law of the land. So it is a legal act. It is a felony. It is a federal felony to cross our border illegally, and that is the black and white
felony.
law of the land. So Joe Biden is breaking the law. This is a law, of course, that he ratified because you re-up this and then you re-ratify. This is the Immigration Act of like 1964, 1963. I can't remember. But anyway, it's a criminal act. That's why we call him you're a criminal migrant.
1965, Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965.
Yep.
It's reminiscent of the slave trade, the African slave trade. People are coming over. Then it was legal what they were doing, highly amoral, you could argue, but they were shipping humans over in chains and then putting them on the plantation to work for low wages. These people are coming across illegally, whether they're being trafficked across like the slaves were of the African slave trade, or if they're coming over their own will and then they're working for cheap labor. Like, it's very similar. Are they going to then, I don't want to be cynical about it, man, but I'm like, in 200 years, are their ancestors going to be asking for reparations because they were poor, they came from poverty? Like, I don't know, man, but they're not bound in chains. That's the difference. Is they're here because it's better than where they were, which is a little.
A lot of them were also working illegally. A lot of them are being taken advantage of. A lot of multinational corporations use them and depend on them to get rich, while of course not following the regulations, not following the rules, not even paying them minimum wage in many instances. So who's the real winner here? A lot of the big top multinational corporations, as of course wages go down because there's an influx of workers. Housing goes up as of course there's less housing. And who loses? The blue collar, the average American, the person who is here, who came here without the right paperwork, who of course is going to be a slave of the multinational corporations taking advantage of them.
I think this statement from Pelosi should be probable cause enough to check the documentation of her plantation.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Plantation Pelosi. That's why we call her Plantation Pelosi.
Yeah.
And also, if the people that want like reparations or are upset about the African-American slave trade and the history and everything that's going on right now with racism, you got to turn your focus on the illegal immigration corruption racket in the United States right now, because those are the modern day slaves. If you want to fix the past, start with the present.
There's still slavery right now in Libya because of the U.S. overthrow of that government there, which Hillary Clinton orchestrated, celebrated, and now Africans who are trying to go to the Middle East are literally being put as and sold as slaves inside of Libya right now as we're speaking.
So, like, are you still a slave if your chains are invisible?
No, there's real chains in Libya.
Okay,
in
so
Libya, there's real chains.
I would argue that a lot of the people that are coming across the border are based on our border visit down to Yuma, Arizona, and we went and spent 2 days in Yuma, Arizona, in the Yuma sector, and we talked with the sheriff there, and he drove us around. We got in our little truck, we drove along the border, we drove along Trump's wall, it was glorious, and then it just ends, right? It just ends. Part of it is because it ends because of an Indian reservation, and they're working with the tribe to get it built on there. Part of it ends because Joe Biden's just letting the wall rust in the middle of the desert. The sheriff drives us to the middle of where they cross, and he says, "That's the rape tree. Go over to the rape tree. That's how the women pay their toll because they don't have any money to get into America." So in case you're wondering how this works, go over there. And we go over there, there's like ripped clothing, there's like panties, there's like all this horrible stuff. There's little children's toys, like every little stuffed animals. It's sickening. It is repulsive.
A lot of it is...
and it is the largest human slave trade, I would argue, because these people then are coming here as indentured, to Luke's point, indentured like servants to work for corporations, and they get shipped off to Iowa hog factory, right? They already have like their papers, right? That's where they go.
They work for the coyotes.
Yo, it is the world's largest human smuggling operation or slave trade, depending on if you think chains are invisible.
The coyotes tell some of these people, not every single one works this way. They'll say it's $2,000 or $3,000 to get your passage paid for, and if you don't have it, you'll work to pay it off. So these people are coming in, they're becoming indebted to these human traffickers. Then they have to work and send money back. I remember I once went to a restaurant, and I'll keep the details more vague, but people who worked there were all clearly migrants, and someone got really mad the tip wasn't big enough. And it was because we didn't have a server. We come into a restaurant with no server, we order up at the counter, we sit down, and then afterwards they demanded a tip, and I'm like, if we had a waiter, like I usually tip really well. They started yelling at us. And so what I was told from someone is that the people who come here, they're indentured servants. They get paid, quote unquote, but they have this extra legal system where back home, there's rules and laws that apply to them here in America that don't apply in America. But it's like, we paid $5,000 to move you to America. You're going to work for our company that our people own. We're going to pay you, and then you're going to send the money back to us or else. So if they need to make a certain amount of money every week to send back home to pay off the debt to get them to move to America. So they get really mad when you're not giving them more money than they deserve.
The or else part makes them slaves for sure. Like if they are afraid for their families' lives or afraid they're going to get hunted down if they don't work, then they're in a state of slavery. Yeah.
Isn't the number one source of income in Mexico remittances from the United States? Did I read that somewhere?
Wow, is that true?
I believe that.
How does that work?
So it's money coming from the United States for people who are sending it back to Mexico. So that's the number one source of income, or a very high level source of income. I would like to have an article to check that, but we've read it on the show before.
It's gotta be wire transfers and stuff. Do they track it? How's that? They just let it go.
Shoving dollar bills in an envelope.
I guess they're doing cash too. Yeah.
I love
Cash,
how
Western Union, Bitcoin, all of it.
I love how these like urban millennial liberal types have started colonizing Mexico City. It's true. I mean, you saw the story. They're like all moving down there, and they're like, "I just love these tacos. The rent is so cheap." And the locals are just like, "This is terrible. You don't speak our language, and you're ruining our favorite spots." Yeah, that story was something else.
Yeah, a plague.
Dude,
they've done that to a lot of American cities.
The woke liberals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, try to go have like a nice time in L.A. or in Detroit or into Chicago. You're from Chicago.
Yeah.
And right, like. Talk about another ghost town like Michigan Avenue. Like
I mean, I haven't been there.
The stores are closed down on Michigan Avenue.
Oh man,
it's like, well, I mean, you can't. There's only so many cars you can drive into the storefronts, right, during the riots, and then have like 150 people run in.
That video where the guys are shooting at the window to try and break into like a Dolce store or whatever it's called.
I mean, it's decay. What about what is happening in Philadelphia? Why is every video I see of something awful, like some type of execution or some like robbery in broad daylight? Yesterday morning, top of my Twitter feed was some mom, some Ring doorbell camera of some mom. She's getting her kids ready. She's like a suburban mom getting her kids into the minivan, and some dude carjacks her with her kids in the minivan.
And he had like a handgun with a 50-round drum in it or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yo,
some ridiculous weapon.
Well, as a parent, I got two little girls. Like as a parent, that is like it's hard to think of something worse than that. Actually, Someone like grabbing my car keys and running away with my kid.
Dude, we used to play at the park around the corner from my house growing up. This is like in 1980s, early 90s. And we'd just go. There'd be like 4 kids, age 9 to 11, playing on the swing set. No parents. I was just thinking a couple nights ago how in the modern day to consider letting your kids go off for hours at a time. Like, well, first of all, I can't constantly be watching the kids 24/7. So yeah, they're going to be off on their own. But like, there's a fence around the backyard. But like, can they go to the park? I don't know. I was in a suburb, but even today, like...
What state?
Ohio. Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio.
No, it's getting crazy now. There's a bunch of story. There was one story I read about a mom had Child Protective Services called on her because her kid was playing in the front yard by himself, and it was like 7 years old.
Yep.
When I was 7, I was gone. I was out. It's like, come back when the streetlights come on.
I can handle like woke trash, like protective service crap, but it's the crime. It's that someone would get carjacked in their driveway. Is that where the mom was, in her driveway?
In her driveway. You can see the Ring doorbell cameras. I'm not. I don't have it in front of me, but it was a
Do
topic.
you guys see those?
Are they legally allowed to carry in that area?
In Philadelphia? No way.
That's freaking crazy.
Yeah, no way.
That's like a revolt waiting to happen.
And this is why Dr. Oz, might actually win.
Do you guys see the latest crazy crime video out of New York? From the Daily Mail, stark naked man goes nuts at Union Square subway station in NYC as MTA officials struggle to get him to calm down before he runs into packed subway cars.
Yeah.
I'm not going to show the video.
Yikes.
But this is just like the latest in a series of videos. There's like a video of a lady getting pushed onto the subway tracks. There's videos of like people being shot and mugged. It's just like the amount of content coming out of New York or video footage of all of these crimes and the escalation. It's bonkers.
Yeah.
It's like living in World Star Hip Hop, but in real life. Instead of just seeing it online, you have to deal with it every single day.
There's no accountability anymore.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
no
That's
fear.
what's missing. But it used to feel like if you step out of line, the cops are going to grab you or someone's going to shoot you. Now it's like, where's the out of line? Where's the response? Where's the protection? What's the point of government?
Why would you want to be a cop at these cities? Why? The entire system of the city is designed to backstab you. So here's a great story from Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C. We have a cop. I won't name him. He's our neighbor. All right. So he's down the street at the end of the block. Nice little house, little American flag outside. Good cop. Great cop. During the BLM riots, he broke his leg chasing after some perp. And he breaks his leg, jumps a fence, breaks his leg. And so he's had a lot of time on the couch to like chat with us about what the police force is like in D.C. And through that time, they could not recruit to like fill the chairs inside of their academy, like even halfway. They couldn't get any cops. No one wanted to be a cop, and no one still wants to be a cop in Washington, D.C. This particular police officer is looking for any opportunity to get out possible. Now, some of them want to migrate to places like Florida, where police officers are respected and even paid by Ron DeSantis. You get a $5,000 bonus if you're a cop that moves to Florida. And that makes Florida a very safe place. You ask where do these communities exist, I would argue maybe the Midwest. I was just back in Iowa. Iowa's very nice. Also in Florida. It is wild. I go through our neighborhood, and my wife's going to kill me because we think this is a nice, best-kept secret. But like, it's like you're back in a Norman Rockwell painting. It's like the society functions. People walk their dogs. Kids do play in the street and run around the neighborhood by themselves. It's nuts. And now the mayor of Tampa is a former police officer. And she's a very her name's Jane Castor. She's very law and order. You know, no riots here, no Antifa here, right? No BLM looting here. But I saw it break down in Washington D.C. with my cop friend, and you feel really bad about them because suddenly you're like, I'm going to be the last guy holding the bag. I'm going to be the only guy on call, like that cop in New Orleans who was the only guy on call, and he quit on the spot. Because he like looks onto his recorder, their little machine. He's like, I'm the only person responding to all these call-ins, and he quit. Wow. He did a Twitter thread on it. It's so terrible for these police officers and these communities that don't support them. They're gonna get what's coming to them, which is what you're talking about.
They gotta get rid of this mask crap too, because people going into stores with masks on is no good. They have cameras there for security. If you can't see who it is, that's a big danger. It used to be illegal to go into private organizations with a mask on because it was a threat.
You still should have privacy, in my opinion.
Hey,
but at the same time,
not in my private establishment. You're not. You're going to reveal who you are before you come in there.
You can make it. You can. Yeah, that's up to them.
Yeah.
But on your private property, you can do whatever you want. But I still think the government shouldn't be watching and surveilling every single person.
No, the private company should be surveilling the people that are coming in to buy stuff, and if they don't want masks, then they don't get to take your mask off before you come into my store. I want to see your face. I want to know who I have to go after if you're going to mess with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the government mandated masks in a lot of these circumstances, so you couldn't do that.
So
That's
that needs
crazy.
to be repealed now that we know that COVID's done, according to Joe Biden.
Well, assuming Joe Biden is correct.
The pandemic is over,
But we
I should
also-
say, is his quote.
We also had that video. It was like, I think it was out of Philly as well, where they raid the Wawa. They all storm in and they're smashing everything, and the chick jumps up on the thing, starts twerking, and people are just destroying everything for no reason.
Yeah, I think we still got to be careful calling for more police, more centralization of power, more government, because look at what the government's doing right now. Look what the cops are doing right now. Criminals, psychopaths, robbers, they go to jail, they get released from jail. Political thought criminals stay in jail, heavily prosecuted, heavily punished. And if you only enforce that system and you give it more of your power and authority and money, I think the situation is only going to be worse for the average American. So I think we do need to bring up George Soros and how he financed a lot of the woke district attorneys all throughout the United States that have implemented a lot of these policies that punish people based on their political ideology rather than, of course, the severity of their crime. I think what we have seen is deliberate. I think it is order out of chaos. And I think the larger turnaround here is people going to be like, more government, more government, more government, more police. And then I think that could be used against a lot of the people calling for it, in my own personal opinion, from my own kind of conspiracy mindset.
Yeah, I like arming the population as opposed to
Guns.
creating more police.
Yeah, personal responsibility, giving people more rights, giving people the ability to defend themselves, I think is a lot more important to call for rather than more police, more centralization, more government, more money towards the state, which they're going to be abusing and using in the worst case scenario against the average American. Because if you look at who the government is serving, it's not you. They're not looking for your best interest. They're not here to really protect and serve. Very few officers, the few should be commended, should be promoted, should be respected, but very few officers actually live by that notion of protecting and serving. A lot of them are here to give you tickets and generate revenue for the state, and we just have to, in my opinion, be a little bit careful when it comes to more in that retrospect, calling for that.
More guns.
More personal responsibility, more freedom, more liberty, and more firearms. Sure. I think that would work out better, in my personal opinion, and there would be a lot more. There would be a lot less harm reduction.
I saw video game developers are now making the gun what they call it flagging. If you point a gun at someone when you're walking around with it, they call it flagging.
Yeah, you should never do that.
No, of course. And in video games, up until now, when you run, your gun's always pointing forward. So and kids are doing this, whether or not they're getting indoctrinated to think it's fine to point a weapon. Maybe Alec Baldwin forgot, but you're supposed to. The developers are having the guns pointed down now when you point at someone, or pointed up and away when you're aiming. And then as soon as you move past them, you can set the gun back down. That's important, man, because we're brainwashing kids with this stuff, and we need to start learning gun responsibility.
That was like Ian is just sitting here having a conversation and then very, very quickly spun around to slap Alec Baldwin in the face and then go right back to a very serious
he killed Helena
conversation.
Hutchins, and I wonder if her family's going to get...
We need to make sure the kids are playing the games and their guns are ready. Alec Baldwin, by the way, is a murderer.
Yeah, Alec Baldwin set an example, a really bad example for people in the film and television industry. So
Alec Baldwin killed more people than every single rioter on January 6th.
That's right. Correct.
it's really, yeah.
Yeah, he should be charged. And whatever, man. We talked a lot about the Alec Baldwin stuff. He pointed a gun at somebody, pulled the trigger. He pulled the hammer, he pulled the trigger, went off, it killed her.
Just can't be sloppy with guns. It's easy to learn how to shoot in the modern age. I don't know.
I just think
Maybe
it's
that's-
ridiculous that there's this whole excuse where it's like, but he was on a movie. And it's like, you can't commit a crime, but I was in a movie. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, it's...
So the armorer, you talk about Jeremy Boring. Daily Wire released a very cool movie called Terror on the Prairie, right? And so we went there, and there was an armorer. I don't know any armorers, right? Hollywood armor. But there was a dude there. They shoot a lot of guns in this movie. Gino Carano was in the movie. Anyway, this is the first time I met an armorer. Like, oh, this is cool. Alec Baldwin immediately. He's like, oh my God, I get asked this everywhere. In the airport, at the supermarket, everyone finds out what I do, and they ask me about Alec Baldwin. And I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. Because I know what happened. I know for a fact there's a small community of people who do this. I know exactly what happened. This is the story about Alec Baldwin. This is what this armorer said to me. I hope I don't get anyone fired here. He said, what happens is on these movie sets, a lot of sitting around and waiting. People get bored. And the armorers like to actually mess around with guns and do target practice. And so they put live rounds in the guns. They are real guns, a lot of them. And they have to look real. And they have to act real in some scenes. They have to actually shoot. They have to shoot. They have to physically shoot. And so the armorers, like, you know, to make the time pass, they actually do target practice with these things. And he says, this armorer says, they left a live round in there. And they handed it to Alec Baldwin, and Alec Baldwin pulled the trigger and killed it. I'm not saying in any universe that Alec Baldwin should not be held accountable for this, But he said that there was a projectile left in the gun, and that projectile was just lazy, like someone being lazy, someone being bored on the set, put a live round in the gun.
Except he apparently he had pulled the gun out and pulled the hammer back several times, meaning this revolver, the live round was in the last in rotation, which means because the shot required the dummy rounds to be in it so it looked like it was loaded, someone put in a bunch of rounds. Maybe they opened it up, saw one, and then filled it with the dummy ones, not realizing. I'd imagine they'd look different. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they all look the same. Maybe that's possible. But I just look at that and I'm like, we have to make assumptions about how it could have happened as opposed to the simple solution, which is Alec Baldwin put a bullet in it.
Yes.
Yeah, don't be afraid of the gun. I don't want this Alec Baldwin story to freak people out about guns. He did a horrible, just like a very irresponsible thing, and it's not the gun's fault. If you check the weapon, it functions as intended. Alec Baldwin, man, did he put a sour taste in people's mouths for weapons, and not in today's culture. We need more responsibility with weapons, less fear about weapons, more self-control.
My whole point on the whole Alec Baldwin thing, it's come up recently because now he might be charged, is just calculate how many data points each story requires. Let's say it was the armorers were doing shooting practice and then they made a mistake. You have a whole bunch of different points in this story that have to line up to make this possible. You also have Alec Baldwin fighting with crew and then shooting a woman. And I'm like, the least amount of assumptions is Alec Baldwin fights with crew member, later shoots, kills crew member. As opposed to Alec Baldwin fights with crew member, doesn't think twice about it, goes and has a private meeting with her, doesn't think twice about it. Someone else takes gun doing target practice, then someone else goes to load gun and accidentally puts live bullet only in the last chamber, position, then puts the dummy rounds in the rest, then gives it to Alec Baldwin, who with 40 years of weapons experience doesn't check, and then points at the woman he was fighting with, pulls the hammer back several times, and then finally kills her. And I'm just like, there's just way too much there.
So you're saying there's malice here? You think that Alec Baldwin intended to kill her?
So a bunch of the reporting was that he had been fighting with crew members and crew were threatening to walk off. And then there was an interview he gave where he was calling her like intense or something, like not saying anything very favorable about her. He had a meeting with her, and apparently that he tried saying at first he wasn't friends with her, and later said he was friends with her or something like that. It's been a while since we covered all the details of the story, but I'm just saying that to have a story that involves the armorer, some crew doing shooting practice, the armor like Alec Baldwin and the angry crew, you have a very circuitous plot about framing Alec Baldwin or a potential accident, which requires, getting 10 numbers correct in a row, versus Alec Baldwin did not have kind words with her. The crew was threatening to walk off the set, and then Alec Baldwin shot and killed her. So it's like the big point for me on this one is that Alec Baldwin has training on firearms, and to be handed a weapon and be like, you got it, bang, whoops. It's like, in what he made the argument that he's not allowed to check firearms when handed to him, because it's not a bad point. It's a good defense. He said, if I'm handed a gun and then I open it up and start fidgeting with it, they're going to take it from me. What did you just do to it? We checked it to make sure it was safe. So when they give you the gun, you just point and shoot at people. And my argument there is, no way.
No, you check it with the armor, the two of you together, and then
and you're with them, safe. And they open it up and they show you the rounds and they say, these are the rounds, we got them from this box, we're putting them in, and then they should probably cycle them if they're dummies, and then open it again, close it, hand it to the actor to do the scene.
But Alec Baldwin is hubris with 40 years experience, felt untouchable, probably heavy night of drinking the night before, maybe not, but brain fog, didn't care, was pissed off at Helena because he didn't like her anyway, just totally lazy.
I don't know if I believe it.
Chaos and destruction. Oh, that guy.
Let's jump to this next story and just get silly. From Rolling Stone, from the Trump supporter who called slavery a choice, Kanye West wears White Lives Matter t-shirt. Candace Owens matched racist shirts with the rapper.
How's that racist?
Racist, huh?
What?
The live stream event saw the musician wearing the shirt as he laid back and recorded children, seemingly from his Donda Academy, along with his daughter North, walking around in a circle in all black as they sang, "You Make Forever." Oh, and conservative pundit Candace Owens even posed for a photo with West wearing a matching shirt with the slogan, "White supremacists, such as the KKK and the Aryan Resistance Society, have overtaken the Black Lives Matter phrase used by black people protesting the police brutality and reframed it. The Anti-Defamation League has categorized the phrase as a hate slogan. Well, what do you do now when there's two black people wearing it? Is it still a white supremacist thing? I don't know if I Who gets to say?
I think it's a joke at that point.
Anderson
doesn't mean
Cooper.
it can't be racist.
Anderson Cooper gets to say. The corporate media will, of course, say whatever they want to say. But this is, a slogan that a lot of law enforcement, including the Federal Bureau of Investigations, investigated a lot of people for saying. People were interrogated for saying this slogan in colleges. And the ADL also goes after this particular saying as well. So, again, it all depends on who controls the narrative, who controls the conversation. And, I think they'll label it whatever they want to label it.
I think the best troll was when 4chan, I think it was 4chan, came up with that sign. It said, "It's okay to be white."
Yeah.
And it was the most generic, it was a blank piece of paper with very basic writing. It said, "It's okay to be white." Like, not even it was better or it was good or just, it's okay. And they called it white supremacy. Like, if you literally just said it was okay to be white, they called you a white supremacist. But that was the point of the troll, to expose that there was no degree that they would allow you to be a white person and live in peace.
Yeah, that was the correct slogan. I got the slogan mixed up. I thought it was the slogan that Kanye was saying, but it is actually the slogan that you mentioned, that in Ohio University had the FBI involved in an investigation because someone put up a sign saying it's okay to be white. So, the feds are keeping a close eye on this, and the corporate media is, of course, weaponizing this term to mean whatever they want it to mean, and, of course, changing the real definitions of it.
When I was admitting Minds in like 2016, 2017, after Trump got elected, there all of a sudden became a lot of racism online right after Trump. I think he said some racist stuff in his campaign, and people felt like that was the floodgates had been opened and they were allowed to be racist now. And
what did he say?
What did he say? Yeah.
He talked about Mexicans like they were like their own. I don't know if you consider it a race.
Taco Ball, or is that the?
He did say that he was calling for a shutdown of
Muslim travel ban, which was insane.
But that's a religion, not race.
Yeah, but it's a similar like xenophobia kind of thing appeared, and I used to get a lot of white purity stuff. Like, it's okay to be white purity. Then there'd be like an old like Gaelic white kind of Nazi.
We were just talking about how it's okay to be white is a kind of a banal statement.
Yeah, so
it's a white purity
I would
thing.
get overloaded with it in my administrativeship. I'd get these it's okay to be white. It's okay to be white. White is beautiful. And it's like, yeah, it's racist. Whether or not it's hateful, I don't know. But it's definitely like, you could tell it wasn't just people expressing their love for being white. It was like they were trying to dig in on it. So I get why they're treating it like that. I don't agree that it's a hate tactic, but I see why.
No, the point of "it's okay to be white" as a saying was to prove that even saying something as mediocre as that would result in your exact reaction right now, calling it racist.
Yeah.
Well, it is.
How
Anytime
is it
you talk
racist?
about
Like,
race,
how is it racist?
Because it's not racist.
Because they're picking a race and they're making a generalization
saying
about
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to be white.
Saying like,
what
I
if
love
someone-
black women. That's a racist statement. It's not hateful.
That's not
It's
what
just
it
a
is.
racist statement.
It's proving the point of the meme right now, your reaction. They didn't say anything good or bad. It's okay.
There's big R racism, which is like systemic hateful, like my race is better than that race. Then there's little R racism where you're just talking about race. It's just a racist conversation. Like, it's okay to have a racist conversation as long as you're not like systemically racist. You know what I'm saying?
You're changing the definition of words
There's
again.
two different ways to be racist. And one is like the hateful one that everyone's trying to avoid. Then the other one is like you pick out a race and you make all these generalizations about it.
But that's not what "it's okay to be white" was doing.
That was what they were just generalizing, like, it's okay to be this race. And it's like, I get it. It is, but they weren't just, it wasn't
You're
benevolent.
proving the point. You're proving the meme right.
What's the point?
What if it was another race?
It would have been exactly the same. Same as if it's okay to be Indian. It's okay to be Chinese. Like, it's,
But it is okay to be Indian.
It is okay. It's also generally a racist statement, but it is okay.
How is it racist?
Because you're talking about race and you're making a generalization about it.
Okay, hold on. Thought for you. You're from Chicago, right?
Uh-huh.
Probably the biggest holiday in Chicago. They turn the river green.
That's right.
Is a day called St. Patrick's Day, and that day there are shirts that say "Kiss me, I'm Irish" or "Everyone's Irish today."
My God.
Is that racist?
Well, it's
Amos would
nationalist.
say so.
It's nationalist, and like that's also a weird distinction. Like, African doesn't mean black, Irish doesn't mean white. So like race and nationality are kind of different.
Is Elon Musk an African American?
Technically, yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
I don't know what are you supposed to say to it. Like, if the argument is that race is a social construct because the color of your skin varies among cultures, then Elon Musk, being from Africa, would be an African American by that argument. And Luke, apparently, according to a group called the Coalition of Communities of Color, Luke, with blue eyes and blonde hair, is a person of color.
I am.
That's right.
Yeah, by definition.
It's a nice peach, pink, yellowish color.
So, am I okay to be a person of color, Ian?
You certainly are, Luke.
Well, that was racist.
That's racist.
Is it? But I was just talking about color schemes. I didn't know had anything to do with race.
So
No, for real. There's an organization that said Slavic people are people of color. So Luke, being from Poland, is
It's a big.
I think that's what Hitler thought. I mean, did he not? Did he not think that they were like inferior people?
yeah. Didn't
The Polish,
There's
yeah.
like chapters about this. in
Yeah.
his
It's so
books.
weird.
Yeah, the Germans didn't like the Polish. Nope, not at all.
Yeah. They
Neither
thought they
did the
were
Russians.
Inferior for that.
Nope.
I want to like detach people from being. I don't want people to feel afraid to talk about race. Like, it's important that we talk about race and like genetic differences. It's because there are genetic differences in humans historically, because our ancestors lived in different areas with different climates. Their bodies evolved differently, and it's interesting. That is still racial, if not small r racist conversations, to be like, this genetic type of person tends to be taller. This genetic type of person tends to be able to do math faster because of some, and you can see if maybe it's a genetic issue as well as like a cultural thing. That's fine. As long as you don't start saying this one's better than that one.
Which is the actual definition of racism here at Merriam-Webster. That race is the fundamental determinant of a human trait and capacity that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. That is the Merriam-Webster #1 definition on Google search results.
What are the other
of
definitions?
Of a racism, right?
But
I think Polish people cook cabbage better than Americans.
So
Is that racist?
No, I think that's just like cultures doing things better. There are some
Exactly.
cultures that do things better.
In
Where's-
Poland, they have a history of
skin
growing
color
and
come
utilizing
from?
cabbage.
Yo, skin color is just a function of where your ancestors came from and how close they were to the equator. Because melanin is just something that your body naturally produces based on how much sunlight you get.
And
it is a protective. It's less about like it's
wanna
more
hear
about
some crazy-
biology than anything. It's more about the wonder of the design of your body to protect you from a lot of UV light to make sure that you can that you're not going to be harmed by
I read
the
this-
amount of UV light that your ancestors were from.
I read this crazy thing about black frogs in Ukraine, and
yeah.
it's because of Chernobyl.
Saw that.
What happened is the frogs were green, most of them, but there were some that had darker skin. When the radiation leak came out, the green skinned frogs all started dying. The melanin in the black frogs, because they're like dark brown, dark black, was dissipating the radioactive energy, and so they were more likely to survive.
Wow.
So 20 some odd years on, they reproduced, and the whole area around Chernobyl is populated by black frogs.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
This is
Melanin,
why,
man.
This is why even like the term white doesn't quite make any sense. What do you mean by white? Like what color white, right? Like what color white? What do you mean color? If a white person moves down to Mexico City, as you said, and a hipster who is translucent from like the Upper East Side goes to Mexico City, they will develop a tan over time. Their skin will become darker. They will have a different in 10 years, man, living in Mexico City, they will have a different complexion entirely. They won't even look like the same person. And that's just the wonder of the body and your body protecting itself and making sure you don't get skin cancer and you'll get sunburn all day.
I wonder if that melanin study on radioactivity would mean that white people are less likely to survive radioactive fallout.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's bringing it full circle.
See,
That was impressive.
If you had a
racist?
video game where you could be like, all right, we need to deal with certain things, what race of person am I going to send in to deal with that? Because they can handle that situation better. I need people to be like camouflage in the ice. All right, I'm going to pick a white person. I need people to be camouflage at night, or I'll pick a black person. And of course, no one's white or black, but their skin's more likely to blend in with the surroundings.
Or you could
love it.
Or they could use face paint.
And I tell
it
you,
doesn't
humans
matter
are
what the race is.
phenomenal. I don't care what skin color you got, where
real.
you're from. You have the ability to change the world, man, and learn stuff that no one else has learned.
Way to go. Yes. And that's why the definition of racism is saying that one race is better than the other, not saying that it's okay to be a race.
Well, what about just
That's why I
making
would say
generalizations
it's okay
about
to be white
race?
isn't inherently racist. It's okay to be Indian too and Chinese.
But I think I guess we're using different definitions of the word race, which obviously there are, racism rather. Because if you just make a generalization about a race, this is something I learned growing up. I'd be like, people would be like, I love black women are so beautiful. And I'd be like, well, that's racist. You're making a generalization about black people, black women. And they're like, I guess technically, and then we laugh because it's like, yeah, but they are pretty hot.
I see what you're saying,
know?
but saying it's okay to be a race isn't racist because you're not generalizing about anybody. You're just saying like, yeah, it's okay. It's like it's actually the opposite of racism. It's saying like it's okay.
Preference.
No, it's not even that. It's just like it would be racist to be like it's not okay to be white. That would be racist. But being like, no, it's like we are tolerant and accepting of other races. That's not racist. That's the opposite of it.
I think once you start talking about race like that, you're basically creating a racist conversation.
So it's
maybe
like,
not big R, maybe not like hatefully, but
So what if someone said it's not okay to be white? Is that racist?
yeah. I think so.
So there's no circumstance.
Like if you start bringing white and black and skin color and stuff into conversations, you're being you're now a racist it's a racist conversation. Now, but it's not the same definition of the hateful, like, xenophobia kind of crap.
Did we used to be so obsessed with race? So speaking of Chicago, I grew up with a Michael Jordan poster on my wall. I think I was aware that he was a different skin color than me, but it didn't really matter. I idealized the guy. I think he was really great. I had his jersey. Like I thought the guy was great. His poster, along with Shaquille O'Neal's poster, hung on my wall. And never once did I think like that's cool because of their skin color.
Well, they say that's white privilege. The fact that you didn't have to think about it proves that you had privilege.
But I was saying these guys are like pretty great for
And
how
don't
they
ask
ball.
me, these people don't seem to have a good logic behind what their ideology is.
I definitely noticed it when I was
like
a baby.
I felt like in the
young.
90s there was like a different conversation about. I think maybe no one was having a conversation about race. You can check the term racism in the New York Times and how they use it, and it's like skyrocketed since around when Barack
Occupy
Obama.
Wall Street.
Yep.
Since Occupy Wall Street.
We were pretty racist growing up, and they called it Caucasian Falls, where I'm from. It was like 99% white kids, and like it was really gross. And I didn't know any better. Like we just grew up. Like if the stuff we said when I was 12 was on the internet, I'd still be humiliated. Like it would still be like haunting me to this day. And I had to learn. Like, I would make jokes about gay people, and it was just like effeminate jokes and stuff. And then in college, I went to theater school, and they're like, that's really offensive, Ian. And so I stopped. And I was like, it's. But I was raised in a really racist environment. When I went to South America, I noticed that I looked different than people. And that was what Tim's saying about white privilege, is the privilege of looking like the majority of the people around you, like skin tone. Because when their skin was dark, they'd look at me and they'd be like, Thor, they would look at me and like, you look like Thor from the movie.
I'm going to make a shirt with you on it that says Thor.
Yeah, they thought I looked like Chris Hemsworth.
You have great hair.
Thanks, sir.
When I traveled around most places, I never experienced that because everywhere I go, no one can tell what I am. So I remember this one story that I've told before when I was in Egypt, and I'm in the back of this van with a bunch of Egyptians, and the vice producer I'm with is this white dude with brown hair and blue eyes, and he looks over to me and he's like, "Okay, Tim, we're gonna play it cool. We're gonna listen to what our fixers tell us to do, because once we get out there, ain't no one gonna believe we're not a couple of white guys." And every single Egyptian goes, "No, Tim looks Egyptian." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And they're like, yeah, especially with the hat, because people wear hats like that. So they were like, no, you should come. And I went to Nasser City where the Muslim Brotherhood was. No problem. In fact, one guy even came up to me, started yelling something in Arabic, and I just like smiled. And then the guy I was with started answering him in Arabic. And then as we walked away, started laughing, and he was like, "Dude, he thought you were like a monk or an imam or something because you're wearing the hat." He was asking where the mosque was. And I was like, "Really?"
The same hat. Similar
Not the
style.
same hat, but similar style beanie.
Yeah.
And I've been to South America. Typically when I go to a lot of places, people can't tell. So I just kind of like drift about.
What is your hair? I mean, I'm
Korean,
not allowed to ask, like, what is it?
German, Irish, Korean, Japanese.
It's basically if everyone on Earth had a baby, it would look like you, but your skin
Well, I
would
don't
be
know
a
about
little
that.
darker.
You are the United
if your skin
Nations.
if your skin got a little darker, that's like the future of humanity when everybody starts breathing
Except
together.
here's the thing: most woke liberals don't think I'm white. They think I'm not white until it becomes politically expedient. But it's like the weirdest thing, because if it's white people who think I'm not white, I don't worry about anything because they're not racist to me. And then when I go to other countries and they just think I fit in with that country, then I don't got to worry about it, because even if they are racist, they think I'm the same as them. It's weird how that works.
Did you ever feel like people tell me stories about Egypt and they say like it's uncomfortable there and that it's not like that nice of a place? Is it true?
I don't know. I had a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a revolution happening. So, but I went to the mall, walked around, totally normal. It was cool. Inexpensive. Yeah, the guy I was with told me to shut up because we went to a fast food restaurant. When I found out it was like $1 for a meal, I was like, "Whoa!" And he's like, "Shh." He's like, "This is a lot of money to these people." He's like, "You're American. You're something like an a-hole." And I was like, "Oh, whoa, you're right, man. That was bad. I shouldn't do that." But I was like really excited because I could get food and I was kind of broke. And I was like, "This is amazing." And then, to them, they were like, rich American shows up. Shh. Nah, people aren't going to be too happy with that. But I think the guy I was with got like attacked in an alley because he did look like a white American dude. He got surrounded, and then some other dude came up and started getting the guys to back away and like told them not to do it. And they were like, I guess once there's a bunch of Egyptian guys got in the face of the vice producer and like cornered him. And then some other guy came up and was basically saying in Arabic or something like, "You're going to attack an American journalist. You're going to make us all look bad. It's going to hurt us. You got to stop." And then he put his hand up and then looked at the producer, was like, "Go now." It's crazy stuff, man. Getting out there. All right, we're going to go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and become a member at timcast.com. We're going to have a members-only show coming up for you at 11 p.m. You don't want to miss it. But for now, smash the like button. Let's read. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, what's he doing? No, Luke, stop. For those that saw the show on Friday.
Dodged a bullet on that one.
No, we can't be fake news.
All right.
Luke wasn't doing anything.
Nope.
That was it. He was doing literally nothing. He was just pretending like he was going to do something. We went with it. We turned the camera
Now
off.
you know
That'd be
how the
funny.
sausage is made.
That's it. It was just a gag because Luke didn't have a gag left. All right. Trip Sucks says, regarding your member segment, I'm a film teacher. Moonlight was the best film of the 2010s. It's not woke, just a great film, absolute masterpiece. Oh, interesting. Yeah, we talked about movies. That's cool. We got Raymond G again. He says, everyone who isn't an Ian-phobic weirdo should go see Cast Castle. You'll have a graphene time, especially for Free the Code and the Fed folks who DMT know the union election was rigged. Go Antifa bros. Yes, Ian's fake union election. The allegation is that it was rigged. Watch Cast Castle to find out more. Wait, was that a historical election?
Yeah.
LCOSR Fijo says, not a single word on the Brazilian election, Tim. We're still waiting to see what happens. The polls were wrong. Bolsonaro didn't lose yet, but it's not looking good. That's about it. I don't know. What else is going on?
They got a runoff next, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The polls were saying that, was it Lula?
Yeah.
That who his name is? Is it a guy? Or it's a guy, right?
Lula's a guy, yeah.
They said he was going to win, and then he got just short of 50%, so not enough. And now there's going to be a runoff, and it's going to go to Bolsonaro and Lula.
I'm not saying I'm not saying I follow this closely. I don't speak Portuguese. I'm not an expert on this. However, Steve Bannon was on a show today saying this is really strange because Bolsonaro's party is winning huge down ballot.
Yep.
And their candidates are doing very, very well all the way down the ballot, and then he's doing poorly, right? So
I don't
what
know
does this
enough.
mean?
I don't know enough about Brazilian politics, but I do have a friend who's Brazilian who the general idea I get is, at least from conversations I've had, they don't like him as much as they like the politics. So it might be like a Trump DeSantis kind of thing where, Trump himself as a personality riles a lot of people up, but the candidates have but the rest of the candidates may be more tactful or something like that. Or who knows? I don't know what the politics are like in Brazil. There could be corruption and other nonsense. We'll see what happens. I don't know.
Are they using voting machines, like proprietary voting machines?
I heard mail-in ballots.
In Brazil? We'll see. I mean, the benefit of a runoff is that they have a chance now to, before the final tally, seeing what's going on. If they have questions, they better address them now. All right. Let's grab some more Super Chats. What do we got here? Victor Solano says, it's still in the Arctic around some islands. Look at the New York Post. They do talk about the submarine. That's the Poseidon submarine. Brandon Hampson says, Tim, the noise your computer keeps making is the alphabet boys spying on you through your computer.
No, we figured out what it was.
What was
We
it?
got a new email system, and it dings every time you get an email. So
Oh, is
that
that
was
it?
happening.
But where was the sound coming from?
It was coming from this TV.
TV.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
That's weird.
Stupid.
What do we got here? Charlie Wilson says, shout out to my coworker Haley, who left me speechless when she asked if I knew what Timcast was when I mentioned listening to Joe Rogan. Wow. Shout out to Haley. Thanks for shouting us out and spreading the word. But apparently Charlie already knew what it was. So you'll have to spread the word more now.
Further.
Marshall P says, tsunami nukes are not new and were tested right after World War II with USA and New Zealand tests. The tests found that they don't work very well unless Russia's is better.
What if it turned out since every hurricane since the Cold War has been Russian nuclear hurricanes? We just found out a century later.
I don't know. The conspiracy theory is that HARP is firing energy into the atmosphere to create storms or something like that.
Well,
right?
they do modify the weather. The Chinese government openly admits that, but that's
it's not about
that's
admitting.
admitted.
Hold on. It's not about admitting it because that implies it's like a secret. Silver,
they
was it
brag
silver-
about it.
Silver iodide cloud seeding's been around since like the 60s, and Germany's been doing infrared laser cloud seeding for a long time. Weather manipulation has been around for a long time. It's not like they're creating tornadoes and blowing people up. I don't know about that.
Those hurricane eyes, I was like, there's got to be something magnetic in space that it's created like that. Like some sort of magnetic charge must be causing that. Maybe similar with tornadoes. I don't know. But that's interesting.
Tim Jake says the tsunami bomb is the latest iteration of geophysical warfare. New York Times reported on it in the early 70s. One scenario was 5 nukes detonated simultaneously in the Pacific, causing a wave that could wipe out the West Coast. Whoa. That'd be crazy. Or they could send a team to the center of the Earth with nukes to detonate them to start up the core to spin again, like in The Core.
Oh, yeah.
With Aaron Eckhart and Stanley Tucci. Who else is in that movie?
I don't know. Let's find out.
I don't know.
We regret it now.
Brett Dasovic Sensei says, nuke Dubuque, we puke.
Nice.
Poetry.
There we go.
I'm from Iowa. I've been to Dubuque many times.
Yeah.
Oh,
Used to
I've
play
never
high school
been.
football in Dubuque.
Great place.
Solid.
Yep. Cool city because it's right up on the riverbed.
This is interesting. Some hijink says, someone please ask Alex Jones if the aliens will interrupt or prevent a global nuclear war. There's a conspiracy theory that aliens shut off a bunch of nukes. And so people have been saying for the past few years, the next thing to happen is going to be aliens, right? That was a big meme for a while.
Yeah.
Then there was like the Storm Area 51 stuff a few years back. Maybe Vladimir Putin's going to like hit the button, the nuke's going to go up, and then the aliens will appear.
What if Vladimir Putin is the alien? He kind of looks like an alien. He's short.
That proves it.
He's got bug eyes.
Let's grab some more. Joe Dutchman says, read the James Bond virus. Imagine a virus that's designed to primarily target those who are obese, older, and have multiple medical issues. Weird. That would be crazy. Like, you know, like culling a certain group of people would be nuts.
The herd.
Me and Ian are looking at each other. I'm like, what can I say here without getting this show in trouble?
In trouble.
Aaron Gaming News says, did you know Canada has Chinese police stations? We did talk about this a little bit. There's also one in the United States. Did you know that, Benny? China opened police stations in Europe, Canada, and one in New York.
So it's not legal, of course, right? You
No,
can't
yeah.
do this.
Right.
But like,
That's a second government, unelected. That's a second government institution operating here in violation of our laws.
I believe, yes. Yep. That's crazy, isn't it?
Have they made
like
any
colonization.
have they? Are there any? Is there any statistics or data out of this in Manhattan with this police office? One, and then two, like, you know, are they arresting like American citizens? Like, are they threatening American citizens?
Yes. They claim it's for their own citizens, but if someone's like a dual citizen, then they're going to treat them like a citizen of China. But this is basically them operating a legal apparatus in our country, which is just absolutely insane.
So there's a homie story that we've covered on a couple years back. There's a homie at the University of Minnesota, right? Chinese. I was pointing at ALX, our executive producer, who's awesome, and everyone should go follow ALX the Lord on Truth Social, Instagram, and Getter. There's a homie at the University of Minnesota. He's Chinese national, and he tweeted about Xi Jinping. He tweeted a meme that he's Pooh Bear. and he got put in jail.
What?
His ass got dragged back to China, and he got thrown in the clink in China in
How
a
did they get
communist
him?
jail. According to the article that I read, it was they used his family. They went after his family. They were like, okay, well, your mother no longer has a job, and your father's going to be in the breadlines, and you know your family is now because of what you've done here in America. So somebody was monitoring his tweets. He's at the University of Minnesota. This is a well-reported story. University of Minnesota student, Chinese, tweets Pooh Bear meme about Xi, gets put in jail back in China.
Well,
brought home, put in jail.
Let's just be honest. I mean, Xi Jinping is the greatest leader. His charisma is just exudes from his person, and we would be honored to be in his presence and even be even 1/10 as amazing as he is.
Hail Xi Jinping and Mickey Mouse. Hail
He's
Xi
a good
Jinping.
singer, too.
I think it's funny how everything nice I said is actually like, to anybody who understands the language would know that I was saying the most awful things possible about him. It's funny how language works, right? But you know, when Joe Biden eventually hands the keys over, you know, to China, I said good things about him.
You mean leave the
when?
keys in the ignition?
When?
When Xi comes to collect, he'll be like, he'll come in here and he'll look at everybody and be like,
forgot
we're
where I
all
left my
bad,
car,
but he said
man."
nice things about me. And then, you know, I'll get to hang out.
Feel good in his presence, man.
Feel good. No, we should all post memes of Xi as Winnie the Pooh.
We should support Joe Biden, too, because having a decrepit president's not good for anybody right now.
Well, they can't deny it. Even the Daily Beast wrote that his brain's broken.
Dude.
When that happened, I was like, whoa, the Daily Beast. Yikes.
Yeah, we need to support that dude.
No
till he's
one
out
can
of
deny it
office.
anymore. Cringe Inc. says the episode you speak of was a poison developer who used gene-specific poisons. They found the culprit because he always inserted a useless molecule into the poison in the shape of a seahorse as a calling card for credit. Was that the Fringe one? What was that? Remember when they talked about doing a gay bomb? Was that real? Did you
I
guys
believe that was during the Vietnam
Yeah, that was
War.
real.
They were doing research and development into it, and then concluded that they shouldn't go forward with this. But you could obviously
What? Like it worked?
in hypothetical references. It's not unfeasible. There's a big probability that I think they did have it, and I think they tried to release it in Vietnam. I got to fact check myself.
Like a bomb that makes people gay?
Yes.
Yeah, the
but
gay
they
bomb.
but they
Makes them
but
gay?
I think they didn't use it because they found that the soldiers would be fighting for their lovers more intensely instead of just passionately making love and dropping their weapons.
Wait. So they did turn the frogs gay?
Well, if they
Well,
had
that-
gay bombs since the Vietnam Wars,
I don't know about they, but you know that story's true, right?
Yes. Can you refresh me?
Kinda.
So Alex, of course, was being silly, but atrazine was a chemical that studies found was disrupting the endocrine systems of frogs and turning them hermaphroditic. So Jones yells, "They're turning the freaking frogs gay!" And then the media is like, Jones thinks frogs are gay, when in reality he was just being hyperbolic and silly about an actual story.
Daily Mail 2007 from October. This is their title. Scientists developed gay bomb to make enemy soldiers stop fighting and make love.
Yep.
Daily
Yes.
Mail is reporting on this.
Also known as the
Proves it.
halitosis bomb, formal for 2 non-lethal psychochemical weapons that a United States Air Force Research Laboratory speculated about producing.
Crazy.
Theories involve discharging sex pheromones over enemy forces in order to make them sexually attracted to each other.
Thank you, Ian.
What? That's from
What
Wikipedia,
the
by the way.
heck?
I don't know if that's real or not.
I just can't believe that's real.
The halitosis bomb.
It's like two guys who are best friends and they're like fighting and there's like a sniper shooting at him and then all of a sudden there's like a big pink explosion and then he's just like, I can't fight anymore. I need to love you. And
I believe
like,
it.
What?
They
That's
dosed
insane.
LSD on like. Do you ever see the videos of the
Oh,
British
that-
soldiers
okay,
taking
fair
LSD
point,
and
fair
climbing
point.
trees, and they're
Yep.
like they wouldn't focus, so they stopped testing it on them.
MK Ultra mind control CIA projects, giving unsuspecting people, acid, messing with them.
But what if they just did that? What if they did like an LSD bomb? And then the enemy soldiers would just be like looped out of their minds, you know?
This was the development
some
of
people
LSD.
don't-
The purpose of
they're gonna
LSD was
hire
to
you
put it in
at
the
the-
water system.
Well, some people don't find
and to make
themselves
everyone high off
loopy.
their ass.
Yeah, some people don't find themselves loopy. Some people find themselves more focused and more attentive and more aware of situations and things.
What about
on
marijuana?
LSD.
They
Depends,
just, like,
depends on the
A
strain.
plane flies over the enemy troops and a blanket of smoke just goes all over them and they're like, what's happening?
They
and
start
then, like,
eating munchies and being
Yeah.
lazy.
They-
Love that.
Second plane with Cheeto dust.
Yeah.
Dust.
They all turn to Ian.
Yeah. And they call it Agent Orange, is what they
Yes,
call that
Agent
plane.
Orange,
Yeah.
yeah.
I thank you.
All right, Tyler B says the animal transformation virus is the plot of the anime Brand New Animal. LOL. It was released by the government of animal people.
What animal would
Brand
you be,
new animal.
Benny? If you were transformed into an animal, what would have you? what
So
would
I
you-
asked Tim this, and I didn't get a response, and I insist on a response before I.
Okay.
I have no idea.
A giraffe?
Animal would you be?
question.
Everyone's blowing the. I'm watching the comment section right now. They're melting down, wanting to know what animal you
yeah.
would be.
There's 100.
A gorilla, I guess.
Yes.
oh, nasty.
Well, but that's, the Timcast meme is,
Yeah, that's-
Alex
that's the
Jones
way to
came in here
go.
and said I'm a gorilla, so I guess I'll just say gorilla.
You turning
Benny.
a gorilla? It's a good.
I guess
that's a
everybody
good
here would be a
animal.
gorilla.
I'd be a wolf.
Well, so Alex kept coming here saying I am a gorilla, so we made I am a gorilla t-shirts.
Yeah.
And so it's a gorilla and, going like, "Roar, I'm a gorilla."
What about you, Ben?
A parakeet.
Is this like what? Like, am I being turned? Am I even turned into an animal in wartime? Like, is this something that's being used
No,
as
like
a
like
weapon?
tonight, like you leave and it's just like it's happening.
I mean, I go to the zoo a lot in Tampa with my kids. Monkeys are very cool. Not trying to copy, but like the monkey pits are the
Copy?
coolest.
You're
Monkeys and
totally-
gorillas are
You gotta-
different.
You don't want to
Totally
be like
copying.
you don't want to be a manatee, right? And you're just sitting around and a manatee. You're just
Dude,
like
wait.
munching.
Did you ever see that
like
movie
hoovering
Tusk?
up.
Oh yeah.
With who's that actor? Justin Long. It's a Kevin Smith movie where a guy gets kidnapped. Well, he goes to visit some writer or something, and then the guy beats him and surgically turns him into a walrus, like trans walrus or something.
What the heck?
It's the most ridiculous movie I've ever seen. It's not good, and I don't know why they made it. But it ends with Justin Long in an aquarium, like as if he's just like his body is stitched to a bunch of garbage to make him look like a walrus, and his jaw's broken and his legs are bent. And they put him in an aquarium like he's happier, and they throw him fish. It's like, dude, he's still a human. Like, you give him a cheeseburger. Google it. I think it's called Tusk. I'm not sure.
Can I change my answer?
Yeah.
I would be a chicken. I'd go to Chicken City.
There you go.
Oh, bro, but
Good answer.
You'll
The
be
biggest
pooping out
chicken.
eggs
Yeah.
all day.
that's a hen. You're gonna be a rooster.
Rooster?
Yeah.
I'd be a rooster. But I like eggs too. I mean, whatever.
Nasty, dude. With
Rooster, like,
opposable
dude,
thumbs.
Chicken City, man. We're gonna build a new Chicken City at the new space. It's gonna be bigger and better than ever. And then we're gonna build a special, what is it called when you're like
Cluck capacitor?
No. What is it called when you're the king, but then you abdicate your throne to like the prince? You're called like something else. Is it like
Regent.
the king regent? That's what I thought it was. Yeah. So Roberto's gonna get his special quarters as the king regent, and Roberto Jr. is the king.
Oh, okay. So if Roberto Jr. leaves or something happens to him, Roberto will take over.
No, Roberto's like the retired king.
I think that Regency is the one that's going to take over if something happens to the leader, like in absentia.
Oh, okay. Well, it's like when the
Could be-
king
but
passes
it
the
is the
throne
regent
down
one.
to the prince, he becomes king regent or whatever. All right, music DC guy says, did anyone ever see the video of the lady at the chicken farm talking about it, and then a guy behind her takes chicks and puts them down the grinder chute?
Oh no.
No, but
Yeah.
it sounds
mean-
brutal.
I saw that.
So maybe you don't want to be a chicken. Space Age Gamer says meat chickens are selectively bred to be ready in like 6 to 9 weeks. After that, the legs give out because they are too fat. Oof.
Yeah, many
And
of
we
them
eat
have
it.
heart attacks, and a lot of them are genetically modified, altered, creatures that
Yo.
don't resemble what they came from.
When you go to like KFC and order a drumstick and it's like this big, or there's like an Irish place nearby here and I order the chicken legs, they're like this big. I look over at my chickens and I'm like, not a single one of those things has legs that big. Like, where do these things come from?
Yeah.
We just got some Jersey Giants. They're a couple months old now and they're going to get massive. And I don't even know if their legs are going to get that big. It's like these chicken legs you get, these are like mutant chickens, man.
It's not a nice life. My wife's from Delaware. It's where I'm going in 2 days, and it's chicken farms. That's all that Delaware is, chicken farms. And you poke your head in one of those things, it's a miserable life for these chickens.
Or like the industrial kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's dark. They didn't ever see the sunlight, and then they're dead in 6 weeks, right? You pump them full of hormones. They can't walk. They just sit.
Somebody said you can fold a $20 bill. If you fold a $20 bill, you can see 9/11. If you fold the blue 100, you can see a missile causing a tsunami. Where? How?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, show us pictures. We need to.
Yeah, I need to look up how to do that.
Now I'm
like,
curious.
I'm looking at the 100 and I'm like, where? On the back? Like if you fold it on the back, how do you do it? Do you
That's
make
a flex.
Yeah,
You just
there
have
you go.
a. You
Just
just
pop
have a.
one
You
out.
have a
Yeah, whip it
hundo
out.
sitting there. That's a
Yeah.
flex.
Well, I mean, it was in my wallet. I just have it
Yeah,
sitting
I'm
in front of
curious,
me.
yeah.
I just grabbed my wallet, $100 bill.
Just keep a stack on the table. Yeah, I remember the 9/11 thing, but I haven't seen.
Did
this
you look
new
it up?
one.
Yeah, I found it, but
Oh,
it doesn't
is it-
really
snap.
look that well.
Does it say? What does it say? What does it claim? It's causing a tsunami.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Well,
What?
if I
That's
see
ridiculous.
it-
That's not real.
That's creative thinking.
Looks like it's been around since 2013.
The
Decoded.
tsunami claim?
Yeah.
Really?
New $100 bill reveals tidal wave to hit New York City. Decoded.
What?
It's a YouTube video called
Yo, that proves it.
Yeah. Evidence.
The Simpsons did it.
Yeah.
Since did it. All right. Camel of the Mojave says authority and responsibility go hand in hand. The moment you separate them is the moment your system is going to fall apart. I hear you, man. TW Rated says, Tim, you are wrong about the price to be smuggled across the border. It's around $15,000. I talked to these people.
Wow.
I've heard that too. So
Wow.
yeah, it sounds right. You know. Ruby Romaine says, I seriously considered moving to Florida, but I don't want to deal with hurricanes every year. Yeah, I was in when I was in Florida, there was a scare, I think, but it like never got close. And then I remember I actually flew down when one of the big hurricanes was supposed to come, and then it turned away and went the other direction.
So you're in Tampa. I mean, you're based
Tampa.
there. What happened with the hurricane just recently?
It was supposed to be a direct hit on Tampa. Instead, it went south, went to Naples, Fort Myers, kind of like the area where it ingressed, and it sucked all the water out of Tampa Bay. Wow,
that was
You
crazy.
go down to
Yep.
Tampa Bay, 20 feet of water should be there. I went and I walked down on the barnacles, and you just walk. Right, if it was Nevada or Chicago, there'd be bodies everywhere, right, skulls and everything. If this was the East River, but it's not, and so it was just barnacles. It was like a little, crustaceans down there, and so you could walk on Tampa Bay. It was insane. And what was happening is that all that water was being pulled out of the
Sucked
bay
out.
and shoved on shore
Yeah.
in Fort Myers, devastating those. I mean, obviously, everyone saw the footage, but just flattened those communities, and so. It's a big, obviously a huge issue. But to this commenter who said this about the hurricanes in Florida, no, number one, Tampa hasn't had a direct. If you lived in Tampa, there's not been a direct hit hurricane in over 100 years. So I guess you can roll your dice when it comes to that. And then two, if you're not on, if you're not directly on the coast, it's these little coastal communities because there's all these little islands, right, that get created. And then the hurricane comes through and literally reforms the land. It's insane. So it splits islands in two. It makes new islands. Like there's multiple islands along the coastline just get created by her. They're like, oh, that's Charlie that did that. It's wild stuff, man.
Sort of like rip the dirt away and form new waterways.
That's right. So there's places you can boat now. There's like there's a bar. There's a bar. I cannot remember which island it is. And
I was there a couple of months ago.
The bar?
Yep. In the middle of an island that was bought off by like 3 people for like $10,000. I forgot the name of it too. But it's pretty cool. It was pretty fun being there.
It's named after the hurricane that created the island. Yeah.
Oh, wow. You ever go to Stiltsville in Miami?
I do not go to Miami very much.
So they built right like off the coast in, I guess it's international waters, these buildings on stilts because the water's only a few feet deep way out. It's crazy. I went out there with this dude and you need, I think it's sonar on your boat to map the rocks underneath because the water seriously is like 3 feet high at some points. But you're like 10 miles out. It's crazy. You can see the city in the distance and then you're looking down, you can see huge rocks.
Wait,
Yo,
so
Florida's
is the city
crazy.
a free city? Is it like not a
It's
city
just a
of
few
no
buildings.
nations?
It was like speakeasies back in the day where you could go out and gamble and do whatever you wanted. And then they were damaged in the 90s in Hurricane Andrew, I think it was. And so now people go there and party and stuff.
There's a bar in Iquitos in Peru that I didn't actually go, but it floods every night when the river rises, when it comes in, and so it comes up to your waist while you're drinking at the bar. They were like, it's dangerous, don't go. So I avoided it.
Are there like fish in there and stuff?
I don't know.
Something
That'd
eat
be
you?
nuts. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, in Florida something would eat you. That's for sure.
Piranhas, yeah.
You see the shark that came on? There's a shark that was like washed ashore and was eating someone's pet.
Ah,
Video
what?
of it.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, it's a shark like eating someone's pet.
Jeez.
Canna
Florida.
Claus says Ian X Kendi.
Oh,
Yeah, let's have him on the show, man.
He's all
Ian.
yours.
Ian.
Ian X
I
Kendi.
know. That's why I said the wrong thing. What's his name? Richard Ibram Kennedy? Is that his first name?
Is it-
Henry. I think
Henry.
it's
Henry
I think.
Ibram Kennedy?
Not sure.
His
Something
name
like
is like
Henry-
Henry Smith or something.
Henry
Yeah.
Smith. Henry, come on the show.
Took his wife's last name.
Is that what he did?
Yeah, I did.
Really?
Sure
It was
did.
Kendi?
Yep.
Oh. Kendi's a cooler last name than whatever his
True,
last name was.
true.
Soy.
Yeah.
Soy. Pure soy.
All right. Andrusko says, Tim, I'm an entrepreneur, sociologist, and former professor. A recent heart attack created an urgency to work for greater good again. I've sent a resume, CV video, intro outlining my skills. Hope to hear back as I have a lot to offer. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'd we'll have to take a look. We have a massive library of emails, unfortunately. So, and we can only hire so many people. I think there's like 30 people here and 32 people and like 5 contractors. So we certainly can't hire everybody. Musically Assured Destruction says Alex Jones talked about the weather machines years ago. That he did. What are they? HARP? Is that what everyone thinks?
HARP's in, what is it, in Alaska?
Yeah.
High altitude, I'm not sure what it stands for, something radio.
High
yeah,
altitude audio.
Yeah, keep going. It's high frequency active auroral research program, and I think what they're supposedly doing is beaming radio frequency
a
out into
FARP?
space.
Farp.
A
Yeah.
Farp.
A FARP.
But they're like beaming it out into space, according to them. But people think that they're actually also beaming things back at us and experimenting. I don't know. Have you studied that stuff much?
Not too much, to be honest.
Oh man, I see something right here. Ian just got owned. Semper Ives says, white is a color, not a race. So at best, it's okay to be white is a colorful statement, not a racist one. Boom, roasted.
Well, if we're talking facts, white is a shade, not a color.
But you're the one who's always saying you're not white, you're pink. So therefore, if white is not a race, then saying it's okay to be white isn't racist, and you own yourself.
It's black and white, not races.
Wrecked, boom, wrecked, roasted.
Technically, there's the human race is like one race, isn't it? I don't get this
The
whole
human
racism
race.
thing anyway.
I have no
It's
idea.
like one species. I think there's like one. I don't know what the genomics of it are.
Descent says, DW reporting Japanese told to take cover after NK missile launch. Good thing Kakala Harris announced our allyship with them. Ian rolling ones on racism.
Oy.
Yeah, what's going on? I saw people were commenting about North Korea firing missiles over Japan or something.
I saw that before the show, but it looks like it didn't hit anything and just kind of went over them.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well. All right. Brian Field says, Tim, if the armorer on the set had the weapon loaded with our product, Bees Dummies, that accident would not have been able to happen. Tell your audience to check out our dummy rounds. Well, yes. I guess the issue was there were dummy rounds and someone put a real bullet in there. So Rebel Without a Cause says Joe Rogan had a joke in the height of Iraq war about carpet bombing with clouds of chronic smoke. I mean, it's a joke, but why not? Just blanket cities with dense marijuana smoke.
Get that dosage right. Yeah.
Yeah, just stone everybody out of their minds. Gareth Green says that is not what a regent is. A regent is someone who fulfills the monarch's responsibilities when they are incapacitated. Ian was correct.
Oh.
Boom.
Yeah, and they can be appointed.
Benny just
John Savage says, fun fact, it's illegal to wear a ski mask in Florida. It's a second-degree misdemeanor from back in 1951 when the state was fighting against the Klan and bank robbers. Wow.
Nice.
I didn't know that. You learn something new every day. YouTube's giving us the business for some reason. It's not loading Superchats properly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's like frozen.
God.
Oh well, we'll grab one more, I guess, because that's all it's showing. Oh wait, another one. Jonathan Bethke says, "Hey Tim, you always talk about Tom MacDonald, but I really suggest you take a look at Chris Webby, especially his Raw Thoughts songs. He refuses to sign with a major label and instead created his own. That's very, very cool." Andrusko says, "I don't need to be hired. I'm financially good with my businesses. Just use my usable skills and experience, please. Thanks again. We'll take a look." All right, we'll grab one more right here from Amtrue, who says, "White is the absence of color. Black is all colors."
In pigment, but in light, white is all color,
That's
and
right.
black is the absence of light.
Yeah.
It's a Pink Floyd cover, right? It's all the colors go down in the white.
Prism.
White
Yeah.
light breaks and... All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button? Subscribe to this channel. Share the show with your friends if you really do like it. Many people have been saying YouTube's not sending notifications. So you know what we did? We told you guys to be the notifications you want to see from YouTube. So share the videos if you think YouTube is playing dirty games and you want to help fight back. We're about a month away from a midterm. And if you think the conversations are important, we could use your assistance. You can follow the show at Timcast. You can follow, at Timcast IRL. You can follow me at Timcast. We're going to have that members only show coming up at about 11 over at timcast.com. So sign up, smash that like button. Benny, do you want to shout anything out?
Yes. Shout out to is it Gauche to shout out our YouTube channel, which is growing and which is at the top, linked here. And thank you very much. And we're working hard on it. And
what is the channel?
Benny Johnson.
Link in the description.
The link in the description.
That's right.
Yeah. The YouTube King here, and it's an honor to be here. It's amazing. I've been trying to respond to people in just the chats, and so a lot of people saying punch Ian. I've seen that.
No.
Can't punch Ian.
Benny hit Ian for us, says Adam Gilbert. Brave Dave says, "Yo, Benny, punch Ian for all of us."
No.
I'm not a violent person.
Not allowed.
And that is wrong.
I do have a question for Ian. Have you ever met a white person, like a person who? Have you ever met a person that's this color?
No, I know an albino black dude, which is a mind.
So what does that mean?
Victor Varnado, what's
Do
up,
they have
homie?
white privilege? Like, what's going on?
I guess in some people don't know he's black, but I mean because he's perfectly like white skin, like whiter than me.
You got blonde hair? You got like, light hair?
He's bald, but I don't know what color his hair would be. But I mean, his features look like you can tell he's got African American, some sort of DNA if you study his features. Fascinating, though. And to answer your question, no. I've never met a human that is white. I've never met a human that is black.
As the only person of color here, you should definitely go to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/wearechange. I made a video that's pretty interesting about the situation in Ukraine. I made a joke about the Kardashians and Pelosi's bazungas. Since everyone in the chat room, I'm very proud of that joke. Since everyone in the chat room is asking for the bazungas, you could get your bazunga fix right now on youtube.com/wearechange. Hope to see you there. Thank you so much for having me.
I got something for you, Lou.
Uh-oh. What is that?
What is
It's a little balloon.
What is that?
Unblown. Hasn't been blown up yet. I know you like
What are
it.
you trying to say here, Ian?
Man, that conversation went by fast, Benny. That was really fun. Thanks for coming, man.
Oh, this was awesome. I've been such a huge fan of this channel. I mean, we're sitting there watching. Before the show, my wife calls me to say goodnight, and the kids are on there. And, she texts me. She's like, "Are you Tim Pool? Can I say hi to him?" As I did. Because we've just been big fans of this. But more importantly, the audience and the community here. The audience and the community is just unbelievable. And the power of just common sense conversation and normal conversation with people who may have diverging worldviews is so important. And you're like the only guy doing it. And so I just thank the audience and obviously
Everybody
the
here.
community here. It's important to sit around and laugh with other people. Laughter creates a cascade of serotonin in your brain and makes you a happier person. It makes you connected with the people around you. It's healthy. It's a healing thing to laugh with people and to laugh at each other and to laugh at yourself. So it's good that it's amazing that there's a show that does this, and so that's why I've been just a huge fan of this community for such a long time.
Appreciate it, man.
I only regret we didn't talk about bros. Maybe we can get deep into
we'll talk about
bros
that
on
for
the
the
after
members.
show.
If there was a gay bomb, everyone would have seen it.
I know. See, we're leading into it.
Exactly. Anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about that movie. That is a very interesting saga. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Minds.com at SourPetchlets, as well as SourPetchlets.me.
We will see you all over at timcast.com. Sign up, become a member, support our work, and we'll see you all there.
Bye, guys.